Chapter 1907. On this day, Qin Feiyang was miserable. Although Emperor Hong and the others were old, their alcohol tolerance was quite terrifying. After an afternoon, Qin Feiyang was already dead drunk. The mermaid princess also drank a lot. However, although everyone said it, they did not force her. As an outsider, Sun Dahai was naturally even more miserable. Moreover, because the people sitting here were all supreme figures of Great Qin, they did not refuse anyone. Before evening, they had already been carried back. Qin Feiyang also wanted to run, but it was not so easy. After the three grooms, Fatso, Lu Zheng, and Ling Yunfei, greeted the guests, they staggered over to find Qin Feiyang, reeking of alcohol. Helpless, Qin Feiyang could only secretly use his divine power to refine the alcohol in his body and continue to fight with everyone. Late at night, the guests slowly dispersed. The emperor and the others also returned to the palace. Only a group of young people was left. However, the commander of the Kirin army was still here. The emperor had specially asked him to stay here and look after everyone. Qin Feiyang lay on the table, his face drunk. He said weakly, "Damn Fatso, little cousin. Ling brat, aren't you going to the bridal chamber? You keep dragging me to drink. What's the point of the bridal chamber? Besides, we can't forget our friends in the face of love. Tonight, we'll drink with you to our heart's content." The three of them were also a drunken mess. The mermaid princess, Lu Hong, Li Yin, and Zhao Shuang sat to the side, looking at their men with helpless faces. Gong Sunbei said with a smile, "All these years, they've been working hard and struggling. It's not easy to have some free time, so let them indulge." Li Yin asked, "Big brother Gongsun, what plans do you have for the future?" "Me?" Gong Sunbei grabbed the wine cup, thought for a moment, and said, "Yishu talked to me a few days ago and asked me to take over the position of Chief Tower Master. This is a good thing." Fatso raised his head, put his arm around Gong Sunbei's shoulder, and said, "Congratulations, brother Gongsun, for becoming the 5th Chief Tower Master. From now on, you have to take good care of us." "I haven't decided yet." Gong Sunbei shook his head. "No decision? Big brother Gongsun, isn't it your wish to lead the forgotten continent to glory?" Li Yin said, "You're right, but the world is at peace now. Madame Tantai Li has returned, and Yishu and the other gods of war have returned. It's not my turn." Gong Sunbei shook his head. "Do you think they would care about such mundane matters? People who have reached the war god realm, unless the world is in chaos and the end of the world, they won't interfere at all," Fatso said. The others nodded in agreement. Gong Sunbei was stunned. He smiled and said, "Today is the day to drink. Tomorrow is the day to worry. Come, let's get drunk tonight." The next day, early morning, Imperial Palace, Bright Sky Palace. Qin Feiyang slowly opened his eyes, rubbed his swollen and painful forehead, and turned his head to look. A blissful smile immediately appeared on his face. Beside the bed, the mermaid princess was lying on the edge of the bed, her eyes slightly closed, and a faint smile hung on her crystal-clear face. Obviously, the mermaid princess had been waiting for him the whole night. Qin Feiyang raised his arm and gently tidied the hair on the mermaid princess' forehead. Then, he slowly got out of bed, picked up the mermaid princess, and gently placed her on the bed. Although his movements were very gentle, it still woke the mermaid princess up. She opened her eyes, looked at Qin Feiyang, and said with a smile, "You're awake?" And Qin Feiyang nodded and said with a smile, "You've taken care of me the whole night. Rest for a while more." "I'm not tired." The mermaid princess shook her head, sat up, and moved from the side, saying, "Come up and chat with me for a while." "All right." Qin Feiyang nodded and sat on the bed. The mermaid princess immediately snuggled into his arms. Qin Feiyang held the mermaid princess' hair in one hand and the mermaid princess' hand in the other. He smiled and said, "What do you want to talk about?" The mermaid princess said, "When are you going to enter the miracle?" "Enter the miracle," Qin Feiyang muttered, pondered for a moment, and shook his head. "I don't know either." The mermaid princess asked, "Are you reluctant to part with your current life?" "That's right. I didn't even dare to dream of a life like this before. Now that I finally have it, I really don't want to leave. Qin Feiyang sighed. The mermaid princess said, but you can't let go of the inner demons and big cousin's death. Let go? How is that possible? Qin Feiyang shook his head and sighed. The mermaid princess said, how about this? Forget about these things for now, and live well with Annie and the others for a while. I'm afraid that the longer I stay, the more reluctant I will be. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment and said, let's make a decision. Why don't we leave now? Now? The mermaid princess raised her head and looked at Qin Feiyang in a daze. Isn't this too fast? Although you've been awake for half a month, we've been in the sea of despair for this half a month and haven't been able to accompany Auntie and Uncle properly. Qin Feiyang was stunned and nodded. You're right. The mermaid princess continued. Besides, Fatso and Lu Hong just got married. If you leave with them, won't Lu Zhang and Li Yin kill you? Fatso? Lu Hong? Qin Feiyang froze and smiled. I don't plan on taking them with me. You don't want to take them with you? The mermaid princess was surprised. As you said, they are already married. How can I let them take the risk with me? Not just Fatso and Lu Hong. I won't take the others or the beasts with me. Qin Feiyang said. The mermaid princess said, White-Eyed Wolf, Zhao Tailai, Yu Huang, the Blood Kirin, and the Willow Tree. You won't take them with you? Of course, they are different. I'm talking about Wang Ziqing and the Black Dragon Snake. As for White-Eyed Wolf and Zhao Tailai, I will ask for their opinion first. If they want, they can continue to follow me. If they want to stay here and live the rest of their lives peacefully, I will give them my blessing. Qin Feiyang laughed. I agree. After all, everyone has the right to choose. The mermaid princess smiled and said suspiciously, but then again, why hasn't the white-eyed wolf come out yet? Ling Yunfei's castle doesn't have a time array. How can he be so fast? Qin Feiyang shook his head and hugged the mermaid princess. He smiled and said, let's not talk about this first. Let's talk about the two of us. The mermaid princess blushed and said, it's so early in the morning. What do you want to do? What do you think? Qin Feiyang smiled wretchedly, and his two hands were very naughty. But suddenly, Qin Feiyang seemed to have found something. He glanced at the window, and his expression suddenly froze. On the windowsill, there was a palm-sized small beast. The small beast was golden all over. It was lying on the windowsill, staring at Qin Feiyang and the mermaid princess. Its golden eyes were full of ridicule. Noticing Qin Feiyang's abnormality, the mermaid princess was stunned and looked over. When she saw the small beast, her expression suddenly froze. The small beast waved its paws and said with a sly smile, you guys continue. I will just watch and not make a sound. Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched and said suspiciously, you are the white-eyed wolf? What? You forgot your brother so quickly? As expected, you forget your friends when you see a girl. The white-eyed wolf shook its little head and sighed. That's right. This small beast was the white-eyed wolf. But compared to before, it had changed too much. Its fur was golden, and its eyes looked as if they were cast in gold. There were also two small golden wings on its back, and in the middle of its eyebrows, there was a blood-red pattern that looked like two phoenix wings. How did you become like this? Qin Feiyang got off the bed, walked to the windowsill, and curiously sized up the white-eyed wolf. The mermaid princess also had a face of surprise. The white-eyed wolf proudly said, do you still need to ask? Of course it's the transformation after breaking through. Transformation? Qin Feiyang was stunned and hurriedly asked, what kind of transformation? It's a secret, the white-eyed wolf grinned. Qin Feiyang immediately rolled his eyes. You just need to know that with my current strength, I can easily insta-kill a new war god. The white-eyed wolf said, what? Insta-kill a new war god? Qin Feiyang and the mermaid princess looked at each other. As true war gods, they knew how big the gap between a false god and a war god was. To put it bluntly, no matter how many false gods there were, they were all ants in front of a war god. But this guy actually dared to say that he could easily insta-kill a new war god? What kind of heaven-defying changes did it undergo after breaking through to the false god level? The white-eyed wolf looked at the two and said, don't keep asking me. Do you want to continue or not? The mermaid princess's face suddenly turned red. She looked at Qin Feiyang and said, I'll go get some water. You wash up." Then she ran out as if she was running for her life. The white-eyed wolf glanced at the mermaid princess, then looked at Qin Feiyong and laughed. "Little Qinzi, it's not that I want to criticize you, but you're too far away from Ling Yunfei and the others. What do you mean?" Qin Feiyong was suspicious. "After I came out of seclusion, I woke up Ling Yunfei, chatted for a while, and pretended to leave. In the end, I saw that kid and Zhao Shuang on the bed early in the morning making love. That intense scene was simply too exciting. Then, I went to Fatso and Lu Zheng's rooms respectively. They, Li Yin, and Lu Hong were also working hard to make babies. I thought you were the same as them. Who would have thought that after dawdling for so long, I still didn't make a move?" The white-eyed wolf shook his head and looked at Qin Feiyong with disdain in his eyes. Hearing those words, the veins on Qin Feiyong's forehead started to bulge violently. Peeping as soon as he came out of seclusion, and peeping one by one. How could he be so shameless? If Ling Yunfei and the others knew about this, it would probably leave a shadow in their hearts for the rest of their lives. Qin Feiyong glared at it and said, "Cut the crap. Since you're already here, you must have heard our conversation." "Yes." The white-eyed wolf nodded and asked, "What's wrong?" Qin Feiyong said, "Do you want to stay here, or do you want to go to the miracle with me?" "Isn't that obvious?" "Of course I want to go to the miracle. I want to destroy that small beast with my own hands and avenge the inner demons." The white-eyed wolf snorted coldly. Chapter 1908. The mermaid princess just walked in with a basin of water. Hearing the white-eyed wolf's words, she said, "The small beast and the ice dragon are so strong. It's best not to offend them for the time being. Don't worry, this brother still has this bit of self-awareness." After the white-eyed wolf finished speaking, he looked at the mermaid princess and laughed. "When are you going to make a baby? Let this brother watch from the side? Get lost." Qin Feiyong's face darkened, and with a slap, the white-eyed wolf suddenly flew out like a meteorite. The mermaid princess shook her head and laughed. "As soon as this wolf cub comes out, the capital will definitely be lively again." Needless to say, before it peeped at us, it had already gone to peep at Ling Yunfei and the others, Qin Feiyong said helplessly. "Peep?" The mermaid princess was stunned and asked, "Then did it see anything?" "It saw everything it should see, and it also saw everything it shouldn't see." Qin Feiyong shook his head. The mermaid princess was stunned to the extreme and couldn't help but laugh. While twisting the towel, she said, "This ruffian wolf really knows how to mess around. Get used to it." Qin Feiyong took the towel and washed up well. His whole person became refreshed and said with a smile, "As you said, forget about those things for the time being and accompany Mother and the others." And the mermaid princess nodded. "Bastard Wolf King, what are you doing?" Suddenly, an angry roar sounded. Qin Feiyong was stunned and looked at the mermaid princess. "This seems to be father's voice?" "What do you mean it seems to be? It's uncle's voice." "Such a big temper. It seems that this ruffian wolf must have done something good again," the mermaid princess said. "It's really worrisome." Qin Feiyong rubbed his forehead and said, "I'll go take a look." The mermaid princess nodded. Whoosh! Qin Feiyong flickered and appeared above Bright Sky Palace. Looking in the direction of the voice, he saw the white-eyed wolf flash in front of him and disappear in the direction of the first district. Following closely, the emperor also caught up. He didn't even wear his dragon robe, only a coat. His expression was full of anger. Qin Feiyong hurried over and asked, "Father, what's wrong?" The emperor was so angry that his face turned black. He said, "Can you look after it for me? It's simply lawless." "What did it do?" Qin Feiyong was suspicious. It actually came to peep at me and your mother. Don't you think that's too much?" the emperor said furiously. Ugh. Qin Feiyong was stunned. He looked at Dishi from head to toe. No wonder he came out with a coat. It turned out that he hadn't gotten up yet. Wait a minute. Even if he didn't get out of bed and peeked at her, there was no need to be so angry, right? Could it be? Qin Feiyong looked at the emperor, and his eyes immediately became strange. "What are you looking at?" The emperor frowned. Qin Feiyong laughed mischievously and said, "Dad, are you with Mom?" Even if it was the emperor, When he heard this and looked at Qin Fei Yang's ambiguous expression, his face couldn't help but turn red. Haha! Qin Fei Yang laughed heartily and gave him a thumbs up. He said, Dad is indeed old but vigorous. Come on, work hard, and strive to give me another younger brother or sister. Are you looking for a beating too? The emperor flew into a rage out of humiliation. Qin Fei Yang saw that the situation wasn't good and fled back to Bright Heaven Palace. What a brat! The emperor shook his head and glared angrily at the direction where the white-eyed wolf disappeared, then turned and disappeared from the palace. What's wrong? The mermaid princess stood outside the palace and looked at Qin Fei Yang and asked, This damn wolf cub, he actually dared to peep at father and mother. It seems that he should be taught a good lesson. Qin Fei Yang rubbed his forehead and said, The mermaid princess didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This ruffian wolf's shamelessness was indeed well-deserved. Wait, are we in Bright Heaven Palace? Qin Fei Yang sized up the palace and frowned. The mermaid princess was speechless. You only realized now? Qin Fei Yang asked suspiciously, Isn't this the little prince's palace now? Last night, the little prince was brought to the back mountain by Emperor Hong and old Qin, saying that they would teach him step by step. The mermaid princess said. Qin Fei Yang nodded in realization and said with a smile, That's good too. With great-grandfather and old Qin's careful guidance, not to mention anything else, at least on the path of cultivation, he won't take any detours. What you did in the imperial tomb yesterday, Emperor Hong and the others also learned from the little prince. In the early morning, Emperor Hong came to find you. He wanted to talk to you, but seeing that you were drunk and unconscious, he didn't wake you up. The mermaid princess said, Then you know about it too? Qin Fei Yang asked. And even Emperor Hong told me. Isn't it a bit too much for you to do this? The mermaid princess said. Too much? Qin Fei Yang shook his head and smiled. Maybe it's a bit too much, but I'm doing it for his own good. For his own good. The mermaid princess didn't understand. I'm doing this to stimulate his fighting spirit. Think about it. What does he care about the most now? Isn't it his mother's grave? In order to let his mother's grave continue to be buried in the imperial tomb, he will definitely work hard. Qin Fei Yang laughed. So that's how it is. The mermaid princess nodded. Qin Fei Yang said, Let's go. Let's go to great-grandfather's place and do one more thing. What is it? The mermaid princess was suspicious. You'll know later. Qin Fei Yang smiled, hugged the mermaid princess, and stepped into the air step by step. Imperial Palace's back mountain. After passing through the mountain ridges, after about 10 breaths of time, Qin Fei Yang and the mermaid princess finally entered the deepest part of the back mountain. This was a place full of life. The vegetation was lush and wild flowers were blooming. Clear rivers ran through the east, west, north, and south like giant dragons. Moreover, there were many vicious beasts here. Almost all of the vicious beasts had reached the War King realm. However, they were very well behaved and silently cultivated, making this place seem especially peaceful. The mermaid princess looked around in surprise and said, I never thought that there would be such a place hidden in the back mountain of the Imperial Palace. Yeah, when I first came here, I was also very surprised. Qin Fei Yang laughed and looked at a certain place in front of him. There was a giant mountain that was more than 3,000 meters tall. White mist lingered around it, and auspicious beasts flew about. A magnificent waterfall poured down from the peak of the mountain, gathering at the foot of the mountain to form a lake that was about a few hundred meters long, connecting to the surrounding rivers. On the surface of the lake, ripples of light rippled, and lotus leaves stood tall. Groups of colorful fish swam happily in the water. Beside the lake, there was an inconspicuous small courtyard. The courtyard was very old. A row of wooden fences that were more than a meter tall surrounded the courtyard in an orderly manner. In the courtyard, other than a 2-story tall building, there was also a flower bed, a vegetable garden, a pavilion, a small stream. This place was filled with simplicity and a sense of tranquility. The mermaid princess asked, This is where Emperor Hong lives? Yes. Qin Fei Yang nodded. Little girl, you're always calling me Emperor Hong. An old laugh rang out. The mermaid princess looked over and saw that at the side of the lake, there was a stone table. Two old men were sitting opposite each other. There was a teapot and two teacups on the table, and the fragrance of the tea assailed their nostrils. The two old men slowly sipped their tea while sizing up Qin Feiyang and Yi Qingtang. Their faces were full of smiles. The one who spoke was Emperor Hong. Qin Feiyang brought the mermaid princess over and said with a smile, "Great-grandfather, Elder Qin." Elder Qin nodded, looked at the mermaid princess, and said with a smile, "Little girl, Lord Emperor Hong is right. It's too distant to keep calling him Emperor Hong." The mermaid princess asked, "Then what should I call him?" Elder Qin said, "Stupid. Of course you should call him great-grandfather like Feiyang." The mermaid princess blushed and bowed. "Greetings, great-grandfather." Emperor Hong smiled and said, "Sit down and talk." Qin Feiyang pulled the mermaid princess and sat on the ground. Then, he looked around and asked, "Where's the little prince? Why don't I see him?" Emperor Hong pointed to the mountain on the left and said with a smile, "Early in the morning, this old man threw him into the mountain over there and let him fight with the fierce beasts." Fight with the fierce beasts? Qin Feiyang was taken aback. He shook his head and said, "Great-grandfather, he's still so young. You're torturing him like this. You're really ruthless." Ruthless? Emperor Hong rolled his eyes at Qin Feiyang and said, "Who can compare to you in terms of ruthlessness?" Ugh. Qin Feiyang was stunned and said, "For the matter of the imperial tomb? You still know. Although that woman doesn't know how to behave, she is still the little prince's birth mother. Is it appropriate for you to do this?" Emperor Hong said. Qin Feiyang said helplessly, "It's understandable that others don't understand. But why don't you understand my painstaking efforts?" Painstaking efforts? Old Man Qin and Emperor Hong looked at each other and looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. Qin Feiyang said, "Think about it. If there is no pressure, will the little prince cultivate desperately?" Hearing this, Emperor Hong and Old Man Qin understood. Emperor Hong smiled and said, "All right, this old man has wronged you. He is really lucky to have you as his brother." "I'm not doing it for him." Qin Feiyang shook his head. "I understand. After all, right now, the emperor only has you two sons. You will leave sooner or later, so the next emperor will naturally be the little prince. If the little prince is incompetent, then it will only harm Great Qin and the people." Emperor Hong said, "Feiyang, although you're doing this for the little prince's sake, isn't it a bit too much for him to break through to the war god realm within 1,000 years?" Old Man Qin frowned. The little prince was still young, so his cultivation talent had not been revealed yet. But it was obvious that he could not compare to Qin Feiyang. After all, Qin Feiyang's bloodline had returned to its ancestral state. Moreover, the ancient castle also had a time array, and the little prince did not have any of these. Qin Feiyang said, "I've thought about this a long time ago, so I plan to create a land of inheritance here." Land of inheritance? Emperor Hong and Old Man Qin were surprised. The Liu family has an inheritance, and the main tower also has an inheritance. Even the former Zhuge family has an inheritance. Only our Qin clan doesn't have one. So, I'm going to pass down the Dragon God technique and the other divine techniques. Qin Feiyang said. "Are you willing?" Emperor Hong asked. As a member of the Qin clan, it's a very gratifying thing to be able to leave something for the future descendants of the Qin clan. What's there to be reluctant about? Qin Feiyang said with a smile. P.S. The Spring Festival is here. Old Meng wishes everyone a happy new year. Everything is now peaceful and beautiful. Chapter 1909. The mermaid princess reminded him, "Feiyang, have you forgotten? The Qin clan also has a heritage in the sacred land of the mermaid clan." "Of course I haven't forgotten, but it's not convenient in the Sea of Despair. Besides, that is the place of inheritance for the mermaid clan. It does not belong to the Qin clan. It has a different meaning." Qin Feiyang said, "Then do whatever you want." The mermaid princess thought for a while and said with a smile, no matter what the man in front of her wanted to do, she would support him unconditionally. "Feiyang." Old Man Qin grabbed Qin Feiyang's hand and sighed. "I really don't know how to express my gratitude to you at this moment." "No, it's respect." "Old Man Qin, you're wrong. This is what I should do and it's my duty." Qin Feiyong said helplessly. Okay, okay, okay. I'm being too polite. Old man Qin laughed. Qin Feiyong shook his head and smiled. He glanced around and finally looked at the center of the lake. Then, he got up and poured his divine power into the mountain in the distance. Accompanied by a rumbling sound, 5 giant stones rose into the air and flew above the lake. Then, Qin Feiyong jumped and landed in front of the 5 giant stones. His divine power turned into sharp blades and instantly drowned the 5 giant stones. Clang, clang, clang. Then, sparks flew and dust flew. In less than a moment, 5 stone statues appeared one by one in the void. They were Ancestor Qin Di, Emperor Hong, Emperor Qin, Emperor Di, and Qin Feiyong. Each of the stone statues was about 3 meters tall and looked very lifelike. Qin Feiyong glanced at them one by one and was very satisfied. Then, his divine power turned into strands and merged into the stone statues. The 5 stone statues immediately began to change. But it wasn't the appearance that changed, but the essence. The 5 stones were just ordinary stones and were extremely fragile, so they needed to be refined with divine power. And now, he had the power of an early-stage war god. After refining with divine power, no one could break the 5 stone statues unless they were early-stage war gods. Several hundred breaths passed. The distracting thoughts within the stone statue had been completely refined. At this moment, it was as hard as divine metal, and its surface was suffused with a hazy, precious light and charm. If they didn't know beforehand, no one would have thought that these were just 5 ordinary rocks. After refining the stone statue, Qin Feiyong waved his hand again. The soil at the bottom of the lake surged up and gathered together, forming a platform in the middle of the lake that was as high as the surface of the water. Then, under the tempering of the divine power, the platform formed by the soil became extremely hard. Following closely, Qin Feiyong waved his hand, and the 5 stone statues landed on the platform in the middle of the lake one after another with a few loud bangs. The bottom of the stone statue and the platform were completely fused together under the refinement of Qin Feiyong's divine power. Feiyong, since this is your legacy, then your stone statue alone should be enough. Why do you need to create stone statues for us as well? Emperor Hong was puzzled. Qin Feiyong smiled and said, You are all elders. If there is no statue of you, would I, a junior, dare to openly place my statue here? You stinking brat. Emperor Hong shook his head and scolded with a smile. Qin Feiyong closed his eyes, his expression extremely serene. Seeing this, Emperor Hong, Elder Qin, and the mermaid princess also fell silent. A moment later, Qin Feiyong suddenly opened his eyes, and a divine light flashed out from between his eyebrows, like a waterfall, fusing into the forehead of the statue. Each of those divine lights represented a type of deity art. Eclipse Moon, Guiyuan Sword Art, Origin Returning Art, Soaring Dragon Art, and the most powerful Divine Dragon Art. As for the Fire Phoenix Art, Qin Feiyong did not pass it down. After all, this was the inherited divine art of the Liu family. As for the 3,000 incarnations, he had not completely comprehended it, so he could not pass it down. The enslavement seal and puppet technique were also not suitable to be passed down. Because these 2 divine arts were too domineering, if they fell into the hands of a junior with bad intentions, it would definitely cause a storm of blood. Then the next step was the battle character art. However, he was also a little hesitant. The battle character art was so heaven-defying. Was it really good to pass it down? After pondering for a while, he finally decided to pass down the battle character art. After all, the ones who benefited were not outsiders, but the descendants of the Qin clan. He closed his eyes again. However, gradually, his brows furrowed. What's wrong? Emperor Hong and the other 2 looked at him in confusion. Qin Feiyong opened his eyes and said helplessly, I originally wanted to leave behind the battle character art, but this battle character art seems to be unable to be passed down. Unable to be passed down? The 3 of them looked at each other. Mermaid Princess asked, Could it be that you haven't comprehended it thoroughly? Impossible, because I relied on the battle character art to become a god. Qin Feiyong shook his head. Then what's going on? The three of them were suspicious. Qin Feiyong said with a wry smile, "There's only one explanation. This battle character art is unique." Emperor Hong said with a smile, "If that's the case, then don't force it. Leaving behind so many divine arts is enough." Qin Feiyong nodded, and drops of purple-gold dragon blood kept floating out from his chest. As the purple-gold dragon blood kept appearing, Qin Feiyong's face slowly turned pale. The mermaid princess asked in surprise, "What are you doing now?" Qin Feiyong did not answer. About 100 breaths later, there were as many as 50 drops of purple-gold dragon blood in the void in front of them. Each drop of purple-gold dragon blood was like a gem, exuding a mighty divine dragon's aura. Qin Feiyong looked at Emperor Hong and said, "Great-grandfather, these purple-gold dragon blood essences are left for the descendants of the Qin clan. You must take good care of them. Also, remember, you can only give them one drop after their bloodline awakens." "You mean?" Emperor Hong was surprised. "That's right. Like me, the bloodline awakens is only the first step. The second step is to fuse with the purple-gold dragon blood. Only then will the power of the purple-gold dragon blood and purple-gold dragon qi be fully recovered." Qin Feiyong said. Emperor Hong frowned. "Although it's not bad, it requires the blood of a real purple-gold dragon. Is your blood useful?" "Although I'm not a real purple-gold dragon, these 50 drops of blood are all refined from my bloodline power. They can be compared to the purple-gold dragon blood. Moreover, the drop of divine dragon blood that the ancestor left in the imperial jade seal was actually not the blood of the purple-gold dragon. According to my analysis at that time, it should be a drop of blood essence refined from the bloodline power of the ancestor." Qin Feiyong said. "So that's how it is." Emperor Hong suddenly realized. He took out a jade pendant and carefully put away the 50 drops of blood essence. Qin Feiyong looked at old Qin and said, "I'll have to trouble you to prepare a brush, ink, paper, and inkstone for me." "All right." Old man Qin nodded and hurriedly moved the teacup away. Then, he took out an inkstone, ink, a brush, and a piece of pure white paper from the Chinkoan bag. Qin Feiyong said, "One is not enough. Take more." Old man Qin was startled. He simply took out a large stack and placed it on the stone table. Qin Feiyong sat in front of the stone table, looking at the paper, concentrating. The mermaid princess immediately squatted at the side and helped grind the ink. Seeing this, old man Qin secretly laughed. What an obedient and sensible girl. That's right. With her taking care of Feiyong, even if Feiyong goes to the divine ruins in the future, this old man will be at ease. Emperor Hong sent a sound transmission. Then, the two of them curiously lowered their heads and looked at Qin Feiyong. What did this kid need so much paper to write? Qin Feiyong calmed himself down for a moment, then grabbed the brush and began to write. The first thing that appeared on the paper was the words potential pill. Potential pill. Could it be that he left behind those pill formulas? Emperor Hong and old man Qin looked at each other, their eyes full of surprise. Shwa shwa. Not long later, the first piece of paper was filled. Every word on it was like iron hooks and silver strokes, vigorous and powerful. Qin Feiyong picked up the paper and looked at it seriously. Then, he put it aside and began to write on the next page. Potential pill. About half an hour passed. Qin Feiyong let out a long breath and finally put down the brush in his hand. A smile also appeared on his old face. Great-grandfather, these are the potential pill, small fortune pill, big fortune pill, 9-chew yellow dragon pill, 9-turn dragon blood pill, 5 elements universe pill. The medicinal ingredients needed for each pill, as well as the steps and temperature of the refining process, I have clearly recorded them all. Find a time to organize them. At that time, you can keep them yourself or give them to Father. In short, they can't fall into the hands of others. Qin Feiyong stood up and looked at Emperor Hong, reminding him. This old man understands. Emperor Hong nodded. This is all I can do. From now on, how far our Qin clan will develop will all depend on the efforts of the future generations. Qin Feiyong smiled. Don't worry, they definitely won't let you down. Emperor Hong said, I hope so. Then grandson won't disturb the two elders. After saying that, Qin Feiyang pulled the mermaid princess and stepped into the air. This child is truly my great Qin's fortune. Looking at Qin Feiyang disappearing step by step, Emperor Hong sighed. Yes, he is destined to be the one to rewrite the fate of our great Qin. Old man Qin also praised. Back to Qin Feiyang. After leaving Emperor Hong and old man Qin's sight, his body swayed, and blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. What happened to you? Mermaid Princess's expression changed as she hurriedly supported Qin Feiyang and asked with concern, It's just that I refined too much blood essence and damaged my vitality. I'll be fine after resting for a while. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and said, Speaking of which, I want to scold you. Refining 50 drops of blood essence in one go. Aren't you playing with your life? Mermaid Princess glared at Qin Feiyang and said. Qin Feiyang laughed and said, Then why didn't you scold me just now? Mermaid Princess said, Just now? It was because great-grandfather and old man Qin were here. I had to give you some face. All right, I won't do it again. Even if it's not for myself, it's for you, for our future children. Take good care of yourself. Qin Feiyang lovingly stroked Mermaid Princess's forehead and said with a smile, It's good that you know. Mermaid Princess rolled her eyes at Qin Feiyang, then supported Qin Feiyang and walked towards the imperial palace step by step, her face full of heartache. Chapter 1910. The following days could only be described as relaxing. He either went shopping with his mother or chatted, drank tea, and played chess with the elders like Emperor Chen. For Qin Feiyang, this was like a dream. At first, he was not used to it, because before, he had never thought that he would have such a day. In the blink of an eye, half a year passed. It had been half a year since the battle at the Sea of Reincarnation. The matter of the demon ancestor and Mu Tianyang had almost been forgotten, and whether it was the Great Qin or the Forgotten Continent, they had entered an unprecedented period of peace. But Qin Feiyang had never been forgotten. In everyone's eyes, he was still the savior of the world. It was also on this day. Suddenly, a piece of great news came from the Lu family. Lu Hong was pregnant. After hearing this news, the emperor and his wife immediately brought a lot of tonics and called Qin Feiyang and the mermaid princess to go to the Lu family. And after the news spread, people like the white-eyed wolf, Luo Qingzhu, and Feng Ling Heir, who were close to the Lu family, also hurried to the Lu family. This day, the Lu family, a quiet little village, was unprecedentedly lively. The happiest people were Lu Yun, second grandpa, third grandpa, and fourth grandpa, because ever since Lu Hong and Lu Zheng got married, they had been looking forward to it. In the room, Lu Hong was lying on the bed, and Lu Zheng was sitting beside her with a happy smile on his face. The white-eyed wolf sat on the edge of the bed like a normal person, his paw pressed on Lu Hong's wrist. After a long time, he nodded and said, According to the pulse, this little guy will definitely have a good bone structure and extraordinary talent in the future. Lu Hong was stunned and speechless. She said, Brother Wolf, how come I didn't know that you can read fortunes? Are you kidding me? Who am I? In this world, is there anything that I can't do? The white-eyed wolf smiled proudly. I'm calling you fat, and you're panting. Lu Qiuyu rolled her eyes and pushed the white-eyed wolf away. Sitting by the bed, she grabbed Lu Hong's hand and said with a smile, You're no longer alone in the future. You must take good care of yourself. After that, Lu Qiuyu then looked at Lu Zheng and scolded, And you, brat, don't make Lu Hong angry at this time. Auntie, she has 2 amulets now. One is the fetus in the womb, and the other is the supreme-grade divine artifact, Dragon Vein Sword. Tell me, how would I dare to make her angry? Lu Zheng felt wronged. When everyone heard this, they could not help roaring with laughter. Lu Zheng glanced at Qin Feiyang and said, Little cousin, this is your first nephew. Aren't you going to express your gratitude? Qin Feiyang's face twitched, and he said, I've already given you the Dragon Vein Sword. What more do you want? Haven't you heard of the saying, a greedy man is like a snake trying to swallow an elephant? You're so petty. When he's born in the future, I'll tell him that your uncle is a stingy person. Lu Zheng snorted coldly. Up to you. Qin Feiyang shrugged his shoulders, turned around and walked out of the room. Looking at the clear sky, his face was full of smiles. All these years, Lu Hong had been following him and sharing his worries. It could be said that she had contributed a lot. So, he was really happy to see that Lu Hong had a good home. The emperor walked to Qin Feiyang's side without saying a word inside. Feiyang, father also wants to hold a grandson. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He turned his head and looked at the emperor helplessly. He smiled and said, "It's more practical to have a few more sons and daughters with mother." Brat. The emperor glared at him and asked, "When are you leaving?" Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment and said with a smile, "I've already rested for more than half a year. It's time to move on. Let's do it today." Today? The emperor's eyes trembled and he said, "Do you need to be in such a hurry? At least give us some time to send you off." "I don't want to alarm everyone." Qin Feiyang shook his head. In the past 6 months, he had asked the Golden Leopard, the Blood Kirin, Zhao Tailai, Cui Li, Tang Hai, the Willow Tree, and Yu Huang. No one hesitated. No matter where he went, they would always follow him. The emperor looked deeply at Qin Feiyang and sighed. "Fine, but there is one thing you must remember. This will always be your home." Qin Feiyang's body trembled slightly. He lowered his head and said, "Thank you, father." "Silly boy, the person who should be thanking you the most should be me. Thank you for choosing to forgive me." The emperor smiled. Qin Feiyang smiled and turned to look at the emperor. However, he found that everyone was standing behind him. Even Lu Hong had gotten up and stood with Lu Zheng. She looked at Qin Feiyang with a sad expression. "You guys?" Qin Feiyang was startled. He cautiously asked, "You couldn't have heard it, right?" "Nonsense. We're not deaf." Lu Zheng stared at Qin Feiyang angrily. Qin Feiyang smiled awkwardly. "We were quite happy that Hong was pregnant, but you suddenly made such a scene. Aren't you trying to ruin our mood?" Lu Zheng said, I'm sorry. Qin Feiyang quickly apologized. Lu Hong frowned and said, "Lu Zheng, can you not be so rude?" Lu Zheng's expression froze, and he said unhappily, "Hong why are you still helping him? Shouldn't husband and wife be united?" Lu Hong rolled her eyes at him and walked in front of Qin Feiyang. She asked, "Can't you wait a little longer?" "Wait for what?" Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Lu Hong said, "When I give birth to the baby, we'll go with you." Hong is right. There's strength in numbers. Lu Zheng nodded. "No." Before Qin Feiyang could speak, the 4 grandfathers of the Lu family hurriedly shouted. Lu Hong and Lu Zheng looked at the 4 grandfathers in shock. "Girl, Zheng if you go to the miracle site too, who will take care of the child?" "That's right. Parents are important to the child. A child without parents is like an orphan. It looks very pitiful. In short, you must stay in Great Qin, and you must work hard and have a few more children." The 4 grandfathers' attitude was very firm. Lu Zheng looked at the 4 grandfathers and frowned. "What about Big Brother's revenge?" Lu Yun said, "Leave this matter to Feiyang. You don't have to worry." Lu Zheng was stunned. He looked at Lu Yun and said angrily, "The one who died is my biological brother. You tell me not to worry? Is that possible?" Lu Yun snorted and said, "Boy, don't say that I look down on you. Even if you go, you won't be of much help. Instead, you will be a burden to your little cousin." "Old man, is this what a grandfather should say?" When Lu Zheng heard this, he immediately became angry. Lu Yun was Lu Zheng's biological grandfather. Lu Yun said, "I'm just telling the truth." "You?" Lu Zheng's eyes widened in anger. "What about me?" Lu Yun was also fuming with anger. Looking at the old man and the young man, Qin Feiyang was at a loss for a moment. Lu Chuyu glared at Qin Feiyang and said, "Brat, it's all your fault." "My fault?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. What did this have to do with him? Everyone was in a good mood, but you suddenly said that you wanted to leave, and you left in such a hurry. If it's not your fault, whose fault is it? Lu Chuyu was unwilling. In fact, no matter how much she said, she just couldn't bear to let Qin Feiyang go. Yes. It's all my fault." Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. Of course, he knew that his mother didn't really blame him. How could he want to leave? But there were some things that he had to face. Lu Hong glanced at everyone and sighed secretly. She grabbed Lu Zheng's ear and said angrily, "You've got guts, haven't you? You even dare to talk back to your grandfather." Lu Zheng's face changed, and he hurriedly said, Hong let go. Don't be angry. Be careful not to hurt the baby." "Apologize," Lu Hong said. Okay, I apologize." Lu Jing nodded repeatedly, looked at Lu Yun, and said, "Old man, I was wrong, but I didn't do it willingly. Hong forced me." "You're still talking about it?" Lu Hong was furious. No, I won't talk about it." Lu Zheng hurriedly waved his hand. Lu Chuyu smiled and said, "Looks like right now, only Lu Hong this last can make this brat docile. Everything has its vanquisher." Qin Feiyang laughed secretly. Lu Hong let go of Lu Zheng's ear and sighed. "Grandpa is right. We can't do anything if we go." Hong Lu Zheng was stunned and suddenly became anxious. "Don't mess around. Lu Jiajin is your brother and Qin Feiyang's cousin. You are all brothers. There's no need for you to take revenge personally." Lu Hong said. Lu Zheng looked at everyone in despair. "Just listen to little Ha, and stay at home to take care of the child. As for big cousin's blood feud, we will settle it with Ice Dragon." White-Eyed Wolf said. "You have no loyalty." Lu Zheng glared fiercely at White-Eyed Wolf. "Don't be ungrateful. We're all doing this for your own good. After all, you already have a family. If anything happens to you, what will little Hong do? What about the child in little Hong belly?" After saying that, White-Eyed Wolf grinned and said, "If that's really the case, what if little Hong can't bear the loneliness and remarries someone else? Then your child will have to call someone else dad, right?" "Brother Wolf, what nonsense are you talking about?" Lu Hong said angrily. White-Eyed Wolf chuckled and said, "Brother, I'm just saying what if." "There's no what if," Lu Hong said flatly. Then, she looked at Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, "Then I won't accompany you for the rest of the journey. Take care of yourself." "You too." Qin Feiyang smiled. White-Eyed Wolf said helplessly, "You make it sound like you're leaving now. Go and prepare some good wine. Let's have a good gathering." Yes. No matter what, we have to send them off. Little Hay, go and take out all the good wine we have in the cellar." Second Grandpa laughed and looked at a big man next to him. This man was Second Grandpa's disciple, Uncle Hay. "Okay." Uncle Hay grinned, turned around, and ran quickly to a small building not far away. Looking at everyone who was busy, Qin Feiyang looked quite helpless. Luo Qingzhu and Feng Ling looked at each other. Then, they stepped forward and said with a smile, "Qin Feiyang, let's talk alone." Chapter 1911. Talk alone? Qin Feiyang was stunned. He glanced at Luo Qingzhu and Feng Ling then turned to look at the mermaid princess. "Why are you looking at me?" The mermaid princess secretly glared at him. Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice and laughed. "I'm afraid you'll be angry. You're right beside me now. How can I be angry?" The mermaid princess was a little speechless. "What's wrong? Now that you have a woman, you won't even give face to us old friends? Don't be like Lu Zheng and the others," henpecked. Feng Ling glanced at the mermaid princess, then looked at Qin Feiyang playfully. Qin Feiyang nodded slightly, looking quite emotional. "Let's go. I won't eat you." Feng Ling grabbed Qin Feiyang and walked out of the village. Luo Qingzhu smiled helplessly and looked at the mermaid princess. "We just want to talk about old times. Don't think too much." "I'm not." The mermaid princess shook her head, but her eyes were always on Qin Feiyang. Luo Qingzhu shook her head and smiled, then quickly followed. "What's the situation?" The white-eyed wolf glanced at Luo Qingzhu and Feng Ling and his eyes kept flashing. "Are you stupid?" Lu Zheng glanced meaningfully at the mermaid princess and whispered, "She doesn't know." "You still don't know." Luo Qingzhu was interested in little cousin in the past. The mermaid princess' delicate body trembled, and a trace of panic flashed across her face. At first, the white-eyed wolf didn't understand what Lu Zheng meant. But when he saw the change in the mermaid princess' expression, he immediately understood. It secretly laughed sinisterly and nodded at Lu Zheng. There is indeed such a thing. Lu Zhang continued. Look at Fengling Air. Although this woman has never shown it, I'm sure that she's secretly in love with little cousin. The mermaid princess trembled again. White-eyed wolf couldn't help but want to laugh. This little girl was too naive. She was so easily fooled. Since that was the case, he might as well add fuel to the fire. White-eyed wolf looked at Lu Zhang in surprise and asked, Really? Why haven't I noticed that Fengling Air is also interested in little Qinzi? You don't have any experience in romance. How could you have discovered it? But I'm different. As an experienced person, I can see through Fengling Air's thoughts at a glance. I'm sure that they must have seen that little cousin is about to leave and were worried that they wouldn't have a chance in the future, so they took the opportunity to confess now. Otherwise, why would they take little cousin and talk in private behind our backs? Lu Zhang said. That makes sense. White-eyed wolf nodded. He looked at the mermaid princess, whose eyes were about to turn red. White-eyed wolf and Lu Zhang couldn't help but laugh sinisterly. Lu Hong couldn't stand it anymore and said angrily, Are you guys done fooling around? Lu Zhang's expression suddenly changed again. He hurriedly stepped forward and comforted her. Hong don't be angry. Be careful of our child. Is it fun to scare others? Lu Hong glanced at him angrily. She walked up to the mermaid princess and said with a smile, They're all talking nonsense. Don't mind them. I'm not. Mermaid princess shook her head. Although she said that, her eyes were getting redder and redder. Did you see that? It's all your fault. Lu Hong glared fiercely at Lu Zhang and White-eyed wolf. White-eyed wolf said, But we're not wrong. Luo Qingzhu used to be interested in little Qinzi. Outside the village, on a patch of grass, Qin Feiyang stood against the wind and breathed in the fresh air. His body and mind were extremely comfortable. Luo Qingzhu and Fengling Air stood behind Qin Feiyang. They looked at the man in front of them with complicated expressions. Thinking back to when they were in Iron Ox Town and Black Bear City, although this person was also amazing, who would have thought that he would have today's achievements? The world was really unpredictable. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath, turned to look at the two girls, and said, Tell me, what do you want to talk about? Fengling Air said playfully, Look at you. You seem a little nervous. Am I? Qin Feiyang laughed. To be honest, he was really a little nervous. Actually, there's no need. Although I did have a good impression of you in the past, that was just the ignorance of a young girl. Now, I just treat you as a very good friend. Luo Qingzhu said with a smile. Qin Feiyang heard this and secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Luo Qingzhu said, Actually, we're not looking for you to confess to you, nor to go to the miracle site with you. We want to talk to you about Uncle Yuan. Uncle Yuan? Qin Feiyang frowned. Luo Qingzhu said, You know about Uncle Yuan's situation, right? What's the situation? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Luo Qingzhu said, It's about him being unable to cultivate. Qin Feiyang said in realization, So it's about that. I know. Although it seems that Uncle Yuan doesn't care much, we can see that he's still very eager to break the shackles of being unable to cultivate. Luo Qingzhu said, Yes. Although we're not his descendants, we've been with him all these years. In our eyes, he's our grandfather. We feel sorry for him. So, we hope that you can help him. Fengling Air sighed. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and asked, Do you have any ideas? The two women looked at each other and smiled bitterly. Luo Qingzhu said, If we had a way, we wouldn't have come to you. Fengling Air said, But we've thought about it. The only person who can let Uncle Yuan be reborn is that golden small beast. Golden small beast. Qin Feiyang murmured and looked up at the sky. A sense of powerlessness rose in his heart. We also know that the small beast is very strong, so we don't want to force you. We want to say that when you can defeat the small beast in the future, you must not kill it. Bring it back first and break the shackles of Uncle Yuan. Luo Qingzhu said. Fengling Air also looked at Qin Feiyang with a pleading face. Qin Feiyang looked at the two women's expressions and suddenly couldn't help but laugh. What are you laughing at? We're talking about serious business. Be serious. The two women frowned and said with dissatisfaction, Okay. Be serious. Qin Feiyang nodded and shook his head helplessly with a smile. Actually, I don't need you to remind me of this because Uncle Yuan is also an old man that I respect the most. He's also my family. We're just worried. After all, right now, you've already found the family that truly belongs to you. As for Uncle Yuan, at the end of the day, he's just a subordinate of your grandfather. Feng Ling Air said. Qin Feiyang's face darkened and said angrily, Feng Ling Air, do I look like the kind of person who will burn the bridge after crossing it? Who knows? People's hearts change. Whether you change or not, only you know. Feng Ling Air pursed her lips. Qin Feiyang's veins were bulging. He let out a long breath and said, I'm not going to argue with you. Feng Linger screamed, Oh, you've grown a temper. Do you remember how I taught you a lesson in Black Bear City? Qin Feiyang's face twitched and said playfully, Then do you remember that I used to have a cheap fiancé? Cheap fiancé? Feng Ling Air was stunned and immediately became angry. She shouted, Don't mention that to me again. Back in Black Bear City, Qin Feiyang just casually said that Feng Cheng's granddaughter was his fiancée. As a result, many people believed it. And the more it spread, the more outrageous it became. For this matter, Feng Ling Air wanted to skin Qin Feiyang alive. So when she heard about it now, she couldn't help but be angry. Okay, I thought it was back then. You're not young anymore. Don't make a fool of yourself. Luo Qingzhu looked helplessly at the two and said, Qin Feiyang, hurry up and see your mermaid. When I came over just now, I saw that she didn't look well. She didn't look well? Qin Feiyang was taken aback. He looked up at the mermaid princess standing in the village, and then ran towards the village. Feng Ling Air shook her head and said with a smile, This guy, it seems that he is really tempted. Such a beautiful and well-behaved woman, let alone him. If I were a man, I would also be tempted. Luo Qingzhu said. Qin Feiyang suddenly stopped, turned his head to look at the two women, and said, By the way, have you decided not to go to the miracle? Not going. You know my situation. My parents have been separated since I was a child, and I have the same surname as my mother. Now that they have finally reconciled, I have to accompany them. Luo Qingzhu said with a smile. Feng Ling Air said, Me too. I have to accompany Grandpa. I really envy you. Qin Feiyang smiled, then turned and rushed towards the mermaid princess. When the mermaid princess saw that Qin Feiyang had returned, she quickly tidied up her face and wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes. What's wrong? Who bullied you? Qin Feiyang stepped forward and asked suspiciously. No. I just thought that I would suddenly have to be separated from my father, and I felt a little uncomfortable. The mermaid princess concealed the panic in her heart and smiled. Is that so? Qin Feiyang said. Yes. The mermaid princess lowered her head and nodded. Qin Feiyang shook his head, stretched out his hands, and hugged the mermaid princess into his arms, and said with a smile, Silly girl, do you think I don't know what you are thinking? Don't worry, in this life, other than you, there will be no other woman in my heart. When the mermaid princess heard this, she could not help but quietly shed tears. Actually, it's all Lu Zheng and the white-eyed wolf's fault. They said that Sister Qingzhu likes you, and Sister Ling has a crush on you. This time, they wanted to confess to you, so they scared her. Lu Hong walked out of the room and looked at Qin Feiyang. These two bastards, I will not forgive them. A row of black lines appeared on Qin Feiyang's forehead. He knew that things were not so simple. You don't have to worry about Lu Zheng. I have already made him kneel on the washboard and face the wall to reflect on his mistakes. As for Brother Wolf, you really need to teach him a lesson. Lu Hong said helplessly. She really felt helpless against the white-eyed wolf. Kneel on the washboard? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Lu Hong said with a smile, Although the Lu family is full of cultivators, everyone's life is the same as ordinary people, so there is no shortage of washboards. Qin Feiyang looked at the mermaid princess. The two of them looked at each other, and in the end, they could not help but laugh. A dignified man and a fake god actually had to kneel on the washboard? This guy was really pitiful. Little girl, let's go. Let's gloat and vent your anger for you. Qin Feiyang grabbed the mermaid princess and ran excitedly into the room. Chapter 1912. Each and every one of them is just a bunch of kids who never grow up. Seeing this, Lu Hong shook her head and sighed. Then, she turned to look at the inner room and said coldly, "Don't get up without my permission." After that, she left. In the inner room, Lu Zheng knelt on a washboard that was more than half a meter long, facing the wall and looking dejected. Ayaya, isn't this my impressive-looking and extraordinarily handsome little cousin? What are you doing? Qin Feiyang ran in and looked at Lu Zheng, who was kneeling there obediently. His eyes were full of ridicule. Lu Zheng suddenly clenched his hands and said angrily, "Are you blind? It's because I have eyes that I asked you what this is. I haven't seen it before." Qin Feiyang went up and looked at the washboard curiously. "Bastard!" Lu Zheng roared. He wanted to find a hole to hide in. Qin Feiyang laughed and said playfully, "Little cousin, this is called retribution. Do you understand?" Lu Zheng raised his head and glared at Qin Feiyang with gritted teeth. But suddenly, he hugged Qin Feiyang's thigh and cried with snot and tears, "Little cousin, I beg you, take back the dragon vein sword." "Why? Did the dragon vein sword offend you?" Qin Feiyang was puzzled. "The dragon vein sword didn't offend me. But threatened me with the dragon vein sword when she got angry. How am I going to live in the future?" Lu Zheng wailed. "How you live is your business. I won't take back what I've given away." "You, don't look so wronged. Lu Hong also wants her husband to become a dragon. She's spurring you." Qin Feiyang said. "How can you spur me like that? Look at me. Where's my dignity as a man?" Lu Zheng cried. "What dignity do you have in front of your wife? Take your time to enjoy it. This is Lu Hong's love for you. Don't take it for granted." Qin Feiyang laughed mischievously and pulled the mermaid princess who was hiding at the side and laughing secretly. He turned around and left. "Qin Feiyang, I hate you." Lu Zheng's roar resounded through the sky. "What's that? Do you believe that I will make you kneel until tomorrow morning?" Lu Hong's voice sounded from outside. Lu Zheng immediately shivered. He lowered his head and shriveled up like a frosted eggplant. Qin Feiyang walked out of the room and saw Lu Hong picking vegetables in the garden. He said with concern, "Don't do these things. Take good care of the baby." "I just got pregnant. Do you have to make such a big fuss over nothing?" Lu Hong looked at Qin Feiyang helplessly, then lowered her head and got busy again. "Is that so?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. He turned to look at the mermaid princess and asked, "I've never been pregnant. How would I know?" Mermaid princess glared at Qin Feiyang angrily. "That's true." Qin Feiyang smiled awkwardly. Whoosh! Suddenly, 3 figures appeared in the sky. Qin Feiyang looked up and said in surprise, "Why are you here?" The 3 were Ren Wushuang, Ren Duxing, and Old Master Ren. The 3 of them landed in the courtyard. Old Master Ren said with a smile, "Lu Hong is pregnant. It's such a joyous occasion. We have to come and visit." Lu Hong got up and said with a smile, "Thank you. Why are you still doing such rough work? Go to bed and lie down." "Lu Zheng, what are you doing? Why aren't you taking good care of Sister Hong?" Ren Wushuang shouted angrily. "I'm here." Lu Zheng ran out in a hurry and looked at Ren Wushuang as if he had seen his savior. "You're a little incompetent. How can you let a pregnant woman do the work?" Ren Wushuang said angrily. Yes, it's my fault, my fault. I'll definitely change in the future." Lu Jing nodded repeatedly. Fortunately, Ren Wushuang and the other 2 came. Otherwise, he would have to continue kneeling on the washboard. Lu Hong rolled her eyes at Lu Zheng and said secretly, "There are so many guests here. I'll give you some face and spare you for now. But if you dare to talk nonsense again, I won't dare. Madam, don't be angry. The child is more important." Lu Zheng hurriedly ran over and said with a smile, "Why is it a little strange?" Ren Wushuang looked at the 2 of them suspiciously. "Little cousin, does your knee still hurt?" Qin Feiyang suddenly roared, "Get lost." Lu Zheng immediately flew into a rage out of humiliation. "It's good to be young." Ren Duxing smiled and looked at Qin Feiyang, saying, "This is the first time we've met, is it? I remember that in the Land of Ruins. No, look at my memory. At that time, it was Mu Tianyang who controlled Uncle's physical body." It's also the first time we've officially met, Qin Feiyong said with a smile. I've heard about you. You're a big shot. Thank you for taking care of my father and my daughter all these years. I also have to thank you for thinking of me when you opened the gate of rebirth and allowing me to be reborn. After saying that, Renduxing was about to bow to Qin Feiyong. Uncle, that's impossible. Qin Feiyong hurriedly stopped Renduxing and sighed. If you want to say thank you, I should be the one thanking sister and old master. If it weren't for their help in the spiritual state back then, let alone all of this, I might not even be alive. So it's only right for me to repay you. Ren Wushuang said with a smile, Yes, father. Don't be so polite with him. Okay, okay, okay. Ren Duxing nodded. Sister, I haven't seen you for a while. You've become prettier. How is it? Have you found the right person? No, I can introduce you to a few. Qin Feiyong grinned. Ren Wushuang blushed, raised his fist, and said angrily, Brat, are you looking for a beating? So fierce? Uncle, old master, hurry up and find someone to marry her off. Qin Feiyong said. I want to, but no one dares to accept her. It's all my fault. I spoiled her too much when she was young, and now she has a bad habit. Old Masterly laughed and said, Grandpa, how can you talk about your own granddaughter like that? Besides, with my beauty, as long as I open my mouth, those stinky men can line up from here to the imperial city. Ren Wushuang held his head high and said proudly, Why don't you say that they can line up from here to the 9 states? Old Master rolled his eyes at Ren Wushuang. That's not impossible. Ren Wushuang said proudly, It's hopeless. Old Master shook his head and looked at Qin Feiyong. I heard that you're leaving today? How did you know? Qin Feiyong was stunned. Don't worry about how I know. I just want to know why you didn't tell us that you were leaving. Do you feel that we're not worthy of you now? There was a trace of anger on Old Master's face. Qin Feiyong smiled bitterly and said, We've been together for so many years. Don't you know what kind of person I am? That's enough. I know you don't want to see the scene of parting, and you don't want us to feel sad, but if you leave without saying a word, we'll feel even worse. Old Master said. Qin Feiyong was stunned and nodded. I didn't think it through. I was wrong. Well, let's go and have some tea with your second grandpa and the others. You young people can play around. Old Master smiled and turned to leave with Ren Duxing. After Old Master and Ren Duxing left, Qin Feiyong looked at Ren Wushuang and said with a smile, Sister, congratulations. You've finally reunited with Uncle as you wish. It's all your credit. I won't forget it. But to be honest, I've been waiting for this moment for a long time. Ren Wushuang sighed. Qin Feiyong asked, What about in the future? In the future? Ren Wushuang pondered for a while and said with a smile, Of course, I'll be filial to father and grandpa. Filial to father and grandpa. Qin Feiyong murmured and sighed. To be honest, I envy you. You can stay with your loved ones all the time. Ren Wushuang said, As long as you can let go of everything, you can do it too. It's easier said than done to let go. Qin Feiyong shook his head. I don't know how to enlighten you, nor do I have the ability to help you. I can only say one thing. No matter where you go, you have to protect yourself. Ren Wushuang said, Thank you. You'll always be my sister. After Qin Feiyong said that, he added, Cheap sister, brat. Ren Wushuang raised her slender arm and knocked hard on Qin Feiyong's head. However, her eyes were full of doting. All along, Qin Feiyong had been like a younger brother in her heart. Looking at her younger brother, who was so responsible, she felt gratified from the bottom of her heart. Young master, Boss Qin, master. At this time, more figures descended in the sky above the courtyard. Qin Feiyong looked up and glanced at the familiar faces. He smiled helplessly and said, You're all here. Among these people, there were Yin Wei, Wang Yangfeng, Wang Xiaojia, Qin Qin, Ling Yunfei, Zhao Shuanger, Fatso, Pei Yi, Gong Sun Bei, Wang Ziqing, and so on. Yin Wei said angrily, You're still hiding so many important things from us. Young master, you're not being honest. Soon, another group of people rushed over. Tandai Li, Yi Shu, the monkey-faced old man, the hook-nosed old man, Emperor Hong, Elder Qin, Sun Dahai, Li He, Jiang Jingyi, Yin Nanshan, the Mermaid Emperor, and so on. Qin Feiyang said suspiciously, I'm a little puzzled. How did you get the news? Brother told them. The white-eyed wolf's voice sounded. Qin Feiyang looked up again and saw the white-eyed wolf flying over with Zhao Tailai and a group of beasts. There were blood kirin, thunder leopard, seal, black dragon snake, golden wolf king, crocodile emperor, winged snow eagle, and so on. Zhao Tailai and the others had been traveling in the imperial capital for the past 6 months. Originally, Qin Feiyang wanted to wait until he left before informing them. In the end, he didn't expect the ingrate to call all of them over. This was good too. After all, as the old man said, leaving without a word might make everyone feel worse. It was better to have a good night's gathering and set off for the miracle site tomorrow morning. In that case, White-Eyed Wolf, I'll have to trouble you a little more. Go and call Lu Yun, Ji Shui, the commander of the Kirin army, Li Ji, Elder Wan, and the others over. And Uncle Yuan. In short, call anyone who has a good relationship with us over. Qin Feiyang said. All right. The white-eyed wolf yelled, then turned around and disappeared like a flash of lightning. Peek him. Chapter 1913. On this day, Qin Feiyang did not leave the village at all, accompanying his family and friends. Everyone seemed to have forgotten about the matter of parting and did not mention it again, because they did not want to be sad and did not want to ruin the atmosphere. At night, in the center of the Lu family village, a bonfire burned, illuminating the surroundings. Everyone gathered around the bonfire. The children sang and danced, the adults chatted and drank, and the laughter continued. Happy times were always short. The night passed. The horizon gradually turned white. Rays of sunlight shone down, and everything began to wake up. At this moment, everyone put down the wine cup in their hands, lowered their heads, and fell silent. The entire village gradually fell into a deathly silence. Qin Feiyang glanced at everyone, his eyes filled with the sadness of parting. A moment later, he grabbed a wine jar, raised his head, and took a big gulp. He stood up and bowed and said word by word, To be able to have all of you is the fortune of my life. Qin Feiyang. Thank you all for accompanying me all this time. From now on, no matter where I, Qin Feiyang, go, I will never forget all of you. Everyone raised their heads and looked at Qin Feiyang, their eyes filled with tears. Thank you. Thank you so much. You will always be the people I care about the most, and Great Qin will always be my home. Everyone must take care and wait for my return. After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he shouted, Chuili, Old Zhao, give me the 10,000 beasts diagram and the ancient pagoda. Chuili and Zhao Tailai stood up and walked in front of Qin Feiyang. The 10,000 beasts diagram and the ancient pagoda immediately appeared out of thin air. Qin Feiyang directly erased the blood contract inside, and then took out the divine phoenix blade. Mother, the 10,000 beasts diagram is for you. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the 10,000 beasts diagram flew in front of Lu Qiuyu. Yinwei, the divine phoenix blade is for you. Qin Feiyang waved his hand again, and the divine phoenix blade also flew in front of Yinwei. Wang Yangfeng, the ancient pagoda is for you. As his voice fell, the ancient pagoda also flew in front of Wang Yangfeng. Feiyang, young master, however. Lu Qiuyu and the other two turned a blind eye to the 10,000 beasts diagram, divine phoenix saber, and ancient pagoda. They stared at Qin Feiyang without blinking, afraid that they would miss something. Tears blurred their vision. Qin Feiyang glanced at them one by one and shouted, Let's go. A portal opened. Qin Feiyang resolutely turned around and stepped into the portal. Feiyang, you have to take care of yourself. You must come back. We will always be waiting for you at home. Just as Qin Feiyang turned around, Lu Qiuyu's heart-wrenching voice rang out. Qin Feiyang's heart ached. Tears welled up in his eyes uncontrollably, but he didn't turn around. He was afraid that if he turned around and saw those reluctant faces, he would not be able to resist staying. Father, uncle, auntie, take care of yourselves. The mermaid princess bowed deeply and turned to enter the teleportation gate. The emperor said, Girl, Take care of yourself. Take care of Fei Yang. I will, uncle. The mermaid princess smiled without turning her head. Everyone, take care. Zhao Tailai and the others looked at each other, cupped their hands, and said something to everyone. Then, they turned around and entered the portal. After the portal disappeared, no one left. They couldn't bear to part with it for a long time. The Sea of Reincarnation. Above an island, Qin Fei Yang looked at his companions in front of him. This time, in addition to the mermaid princess and the white-eyed wolf, Tang Hai, Zhao Tailai, Cui Li, the blood Kirin, the golden panther, the willow tree, and Yu Huang had followed him into the miracle. Yin Wei. Qin Fei Yang wanted to keep him by his side. That was because he owed Yin Wei too much and wanted to make it up to him. However, Yin Wei told him that he had been lurking around the Grandmaster all these years. It was like walking on thin ice. He was too tired and wanted to take a good rest. After Qin Fei Yang heard this, he didn't force him. Staying in the great Qin Empire might be the right choice for Yin Wei. So, he left the Divine Phoenix Blade to Yin Wei. The Divine Phoenix Blade had given birth to an artifact spirit. In the future, it would definitely grow into a supreme-grade divine artifact, or even a peak-grade legendary divine artifact. It could be considered a bit of his feelings for Yin Wei. Of course, he also knew that the Divine Phoenix Blade alone couldn't make up for Yin Wei's sacrifice over the years. Therefore, he also specially instructed Emperor Hong and his father to take good care of Yin Wei and Yin Wei's clansmen in the future. As for Li Jian, the Golden Wolf King, the Silver Wolf King, and the Crocodile Emperor, they all chose to stay in the Great Qin Empire. Qin Fei Yang didn't force them. After all, he had said from the beginning that he respected everyone's opinions. Moreover, Li Jian, the Crocodile Emperor, and the other beasts staying in the Great Qin Empire also relieved him of his worries. This was because Li Jian, the Crocodile Emperor, and the other beasts were his most loyal subordinates. Moreover, they had all opened the door of potential and stepped into the false god realm. Their future achievements were limitless. With them around, it was enough to protect the future generations of the Great Qin Empire. As for Wang Ziqing, Big Barbarian Bull, Spirit Queen, Viper, Dan Wangkai, and the Six Elders, they all chose to return to the Forgotten Continent to assist Gongsun Bei. Actually, Qin Fei Yang also understood in his heart. Whether it was Yin Wei, Li Jian, or the others, they didn't want to be a burden to him. Because in their opinion, no matter how hard they worked, they wouldn't be able to catch up to Qin Fei Yang. The gap in strength would only get bigger and bigger. Therefore, even if they followed, they wouldn't be able to help. It was better to stay in the Great Qin Empire and the Forgotten Continent, take care of the rear, and let Qin Fei Yang go out without any worries. In short, one sentence, they didn't want to be a burden to Qin Fei Yang. However, Qin Fei Yang had never thought of it that way. Huff. Taking a deep breath, Qin Fei Yang looked at Tang Hai and the others and smiled. Are you ready? Everyone nodded. Then, let's go. Qin Fei Yang waved his hand and led a group of people towards the demonic Dragon Island in a grandiose manner. However, when they approached the Demon Dragon Island, everyone was stunned in the void. The Demon Dragon Island that had been shattered and swallowed by the sea actually appeared in front of them again. What's going on? Zhao Tailai was surprised. Hee, it's this old man who recreated the Demon Dragon Island. Suddenly, a faint laughter sounded. A white-haired old man appeared in front of everyone. His old face was full of smiles. Uncle Yuan? Qin Fei Yang was stunned and hurriedly went up, smiling. I thought I wouldn't have the chance to see you before I left. It turns out that you've already been waiting for me here. Uncle Yuan didn't show up at yesterday's gathering. Going there will only add to the sadness. Qin Yuan shook his head and smiled. This trip to the divine site is dangerous and unpredictable. Uncle Yuan will give you a killing intent that can save your life at the critical moment. Qin Yuan waved his hand, and a killing intent swept out from his forehead and entered Qin Fei Yang's sea of consciousness. Thank you. Qin Fei Yang was touched. Uncle Yuan stepped forward and tidied up Qin Fei Yang's clothes, saying, You must come down alive. Don't let everyone wait in vain. And Qin Fei Yang nodded. Then go. I have moved the teleportation altar to the center of the Demon Dragon Island. There are also people waiting for you there. Uncle Yuan smiled. Who is it? Qin Feiyong was suspicious. You'll know when you get there. Uncle Yuan smiled slightly. Then I'll take my leave. In the future, I'll have to trouble Uncle Yuan to take care of my mother and the others. Qin Feiyong said, You left behind so many subordinates? Do you still need me to take care of them? Uncle Yuan was helpless. Isn't this because you are more reliable? Qin Feiyong smiled, bowed deeply to Qin Yuan, and flew toward the central area of the Demon Dragon Island. Central area? In a valley. A blood-colored altar was located in the middle of the valley. Beside the altar stood a man and a woman, as well as a beast several meters long. The beast was shaped like a big dog, with blood-red hair all over its body and 6 heads on its shoulders. Obviously, it was the Cerberus. With the Cerberus here, the man's identity was naturally revealed. Tanwu. The woman looked to be in her 20s, wearing a long white dress. Her black hair was like a waterfall. She stood silently beside the altar with a trace of melancholy in her eyes. This person was Lin Yi. When Qin Feiyong and others found the valley and saw Lin Yi and the Cerberus, they couldn't help but look stunned. Tanwu looked up at everyone. Finally, he looked at Qin Feiyong and smiled, Brother Qin. I have been waiting here for a long time. Qin Feiyong landed next to the altar and said in surprise, You and the Cerberus are going to the miracle too? Why? Do you have a problem with it? We won't follow you. The Cerberus pouted. Damn dog, can you be a little polite? Tanwu glared at the Cerberus in annoyance and looked at Qin Feiyong with a smile. Uncle Yuan asked us to go to the ancient world. I see. Qin Feiyong nodded in realization and looked at Lin Yi again. Lin Yi was originally looking at Qin Feiyong, but when she saw Qin Feiyong looking at her, she immediately turned her head and looked away, avoiding his eyes. Haven't you remembered yet? Qin Feiyong asked. Lin Yi was silent, and the disappointment in her eyes became stronger. This art of indifference is too overbearing. In the past few days, Uncle Yuan has been helping her find her memory. He has tried everything, but it's useless. Tanwu sighed. Mermaid Princess stepped forward and comforted. Don't worry. Take your time. You will definitely remember. Thank you. Lin Yi smiled slightly and said, Sigh. Qin Feiyong sighed. In the past, Lin Yi was such a lively and innocent little girl. But now, even if she smiled, her smile was melancholic. Qin Feiyong looked at Tanwu and asked secretly, So, she is going to the miracle too? And she wants to find the demon ancestor, because the art of indifference was given to her by the demon ancestor. The demon ancestor may have a way to recover her memory. Tanwu transmitted his voice. I don't think the demon ancestor has a way. Otherwise, when the demon ancestor was resurrected, he would have helped Yi recover her memory. Qin Feiyong sighed secretly. Tanwu glanced at Lin Yi and said secretly, It's better to have hope than no hope. That's true. Qin Feiyong nodded. Tanwu said then, Open the altar. Qin Feiyong took a step back, and more than a dozen incarnations appeared. Divine power rolled out and poured into the altar. Buzz. The altar quickly recovered, and blood light shone in all directions. Not long after, a blood-colored light beam soared into the sky. The altar was fully activated. Qin Feiyong dispersed the incarnation, turned his head, and glanced at the sea of reincarnation. He then looked in the direction of the imperial capital and murmured, Everyone, take care. Let's go. As his voice fell, the group stepped onto the altar one after another. Just as they disappeared and the altar was about to close, a few more figures came through the air like lightning and landed on the altar. Immediately, those figures also disappeared quickly. The altar also closed. Chapter 1914. The second level of the Divine Sight. The fire dragon was still napping beside the altar as usual. Suddenly, it opened its eyes, revealing a hint of surprise. The next moment, it disappeared without a trace. Above a mountain range, with Qin Feiyong as the leader, everyone stood facing the wind, looking at the void in front of them in astonishment. In front of them, there was a man, 2 women, and a beast. It was Tantai Li and her daughter, Dan Wangkai, and Lei Bao. Qin Feiyong came back to his senses, looking at the 3 people and 1 beast suspiciously. What's up with you guys? Mother guessed that you wouldn't let her enter the divine sight, so she didn't say anything. After you guys left, Mother brought us here quietly. Qin Rushuang smiled. Great-grandmother. You. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but have a headache. The others didn't matter. But this great-grandmother, he really didn't want to let her enter the divine sight. Not to mention other things. If something happened to her in the future, how would he explain it to his ancestors? Since we're already here, what can you do to me? Tantai was a little proud. Qin Feiyang was helpless, looking at Dan Wangkai and Lei Bao suspiciously. What about you guys? I asked you guys a long time ago, and you guys said that you wanted to stay in the Forgotten Continent in Great Qin. Why are you here now? Lei Bao grinned. Didn't we want to give you a surprise? It's a shock. Qin Feiyang glared at it. Actually, at first, I did want to stay in the Forgotten Continent, but later, Wang Ziqing and Viper persuaded me, saying that you lack an alchemist by your side, and asked me to help you. I thought about it and it made sense. With me helping you refine pills, you can focus on other things. As for Lei Bao, I instigated it to come. Don't I lack a partner by my side? I think it's quite suitable. Dan Wangkai smiled. Lei Bao hurriedly said, Dan Wangkai, don't misunderstand. I haven't agreed yet. It's just a matter of time. Dan Wangkai said, stop being so smug. I'm not interested in you at all. I just want to see the world. Lei Bao was filled with disdain. Qin Feiyang said helplessly, you guys really like to launch surprise attacks. Brother Qin, you're finally here. Suddenly, the fire python appeared and warmly welcomed Qin Feiyang. Brother Hua, it's been half a year since we last met. How have you been? Qin Feiyang was also full of smiles. The man and beast chatted for a while before Qin Feiyang pointed at Tantai Li and Qin Rushuang and said, Brother Hua, can you do me a favor and send them back to the Great Qin Empire? How dare you? Tantai Li's face darkened. Qin Rushuang also looked displeased. Qin Feiyang asked, if you all leave, what will happen to the Forgotten Continent? I've taken care of everything. Gongsun Bei has already taken office. Yishu and the others will do their best to assist him. Moreover, there are also outstanding youngsters like Wang Ziqing, so you don't have to worry at all. Tantai Li said indifferently. Qin Feiyang's face twitched. So it was premeditated. The fire python looked at the two of them and looked at Qin Feiyang apologetically, saying, Brother Qin, I can't do anything about this. Last time, it was Lord Ice Dragon who sent me out. Qin Feiyang asked, you can't open the door to the divine sight? That's possible, but it's not time yet. If you open it without permission, you'll be punished by Lord Beast God. The fire python said. The mysterious lady said proudly, did you hear that? You'd better put away your little thoughts. Qin Feiyang looked helpless. It seemed that it was a foregone conclusion. The mermaid princess looked at the fire python and asked, Lord Guardian, are the inner demons and Lu Jiajin really dead? I didn't see it with my own eyes, but Lord Ice Dragon said so. It shouldn't be false. The fire python said. Where is Ice Dragon now? Qin Feiyang asked. I don't know. After I returned, it left a sentence and returned to the 3rd floor, never to appear again. The fire python shook its head. What did it say? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. It's related to you. It said that I'm not allowed to let you enter the 3rd floor. The fire python said. I'm not allowed to enter the 3rd floor? Is there some unspeakable secret on the 3rd floor? Qin Feiyang said angrily. I don't know about this, but I don't dare to disobey Lord Ice Dragon's orders. So, the fire python looked at Qin Feiyang with some difficulty. Huff. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath, suppressed the anger in his heart, and said with a smile, Brother Fire, don't worry. I won't make things difficult for you. Actually, it's not just you. I'm also very unwilling. As long as the fire dragon is not killed, I won't be able to rest in peace. The fire python sighed. Qin Feiyang said, I promise you, I'll come to you with its head sooner or later. And the fire python nodded and said with a smile, then what are your plans now? I originally wanted to enter the 3rd floor first to check whether the inner demons and big cousin are alive or dead. But now it seems that I can only go to the ancient world to look for my ancestors. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and said, I can send you to the ancient world, But Brother Qin, the ancient world isn't that simple. There are too many experts there. You must be careful. The fire python warned. Thank you for the reminder. Qin Feiyong smiled gratefully. Young master, wait a moment. Did you bring the space-time gate? Zhao Tailai suddenly asked. Yes, but I didn't bring the imitation space-time gate. After I gave it to old Qin, I didn't take it back. Just treat it as a gift to him. Qin Feiyong said. The imitation space-time gate is not important. Zhao Tailai pondered for a while, looked at Qin Feiyong and said, Young master, I have a suggestion. Go ahead. Qin Feiyong said. Zhao Tailai said, we can open the space-time gate and enter the third floor. This way, we won't be making things difficult for the guardian. And? Qin Feiyong was stunned. He looked up at the fire python and said, Brother Fire, do you have the coordinates of the third floor? I've only been to that hall. The fire python said, Give me the coordinates. Qin Feiyong said, That's not good. Only Lord Divine Beast and Lord Ice Dragon can open the door of that hall. So even if I give you the coordinates, you won't be able to walk out of that hall. The fire python hurriedly said. Qin Feiyong clenched his hands and said, How will I know if I don't try? Are you sure? You have to understand that if Lord Ice Dragon and Lord Divine Beast know about this, I won't care about you, the fire python said in a deep voice. In other words, it was better not to take the risk and enter the ancient world first. When he was strong enough, he would come back to the third floor. Qin Feiyong pondered for a while, looked at the fire python and said, I want to take a look. You. The fire python shook its head and said helplessly, All right, I'll let you in, but you have to remember, if the situation is bad, immediately retreat. Okay. Qin Feiyong nodded. The fire python's divine power gushed out and poured into the teleportation altar. Buzz. The teleportation altar quickly recovered. Brother Fire, what are you doing? Qin Feiyong was surprised. Didn't they say to open the space-time gate and enter? Why did they revive the altar? The fire python said with a smile, Keep your space-time gate to save your life. Qin Feiyong said anxiously, What if Lord Ice Dragon and the others find out? How will you explain it? That's simple. After you enter, I'll destroy my Sea of Qi. At that time, if Lord Beast God and the others find out, I'll say that I was injured by you and couldn't stop you. I think at that time, at most, I'll be punished a little. I won't lose my life. The fire python laughed. Thank you, Brother Fire. Qin Feiyong bowed and was moved. This was because the fire python was risking its life with him. Go in quickly. The fire python smiled. Goodbye. Qin Feiyong cupped his hands and said. Then, he stepped onto the altar resolutely. Zhao Tailai and the others also followed. Lin Yi pondered and jumped onto the altar. The group of people immediately disappeared. This is all I can help you. You'll have to rely on yourself next. The fire python looked at the dimming altar and muttered to himself. A strand of divine power tore the scales and flesh on his abdomen. His Sea of Qi shattered on the spot. In the main hall, Qin Feiyong and the others appeared out of thin air. Just like when the inner demons first entered here, their eyes were full of curiosity and vigilance. Inside the main hall, it was empty. There wasn't even a shadow. After glancing around carefully, Qin Feiyong walked straight to the door of the main hall. The door was closed. Qin Feiyong pushed hard, but there was no response at all. Qin Feiyong said, Go around and see if there are other exits. The group immediately dispersed. Only Tantaili stayed beside Qin Feiyong. She looked at the door and frowned. How did the inner demons get out in the first place? I think it may be related to the Ice Dragon. Qin Feiyong raised his arm. Murderous aura surged, and a crimson long sword condensed. Tantaili saw it and immediately took a few steps back. Slash! Qin Feiyong yelled and slashed at the door. With a loud bang, the door did not split open. Instead, he was blasted out with blood spurting from his mouth. Is there anything wrong? Tantaili hurriedly stepped forward, supported Qin Feiyong, and asked with concern, I'm fine. Qin Feiyong waved his hand and looked at the door. His eyes were full of unwillingness to admit defeat. Soaring Dragon's secret art activated. His cultivation soared to great success war god in an instant, and then he slashed again. But in the end, the door still did not respond at all. Tanili sighed. It seems that what Fire Python said is true. We can't get out of this main hall at all. Today at this time, Zhao Tailai and others gathered around and shook their heads at Qin Feiyang. The entire main hall was integrated. Not to mention an exit, there wasn't even a gap. Qin Feiyang's eyes were full of unwillingness. He shouted, "Follow me to bombard the door. I don't believe that it can't be opened." Boom! Divine power erupted one after another. Except for Dan Wangkai, everyone took action. Even Lin Yi also contributed her strength. Boom! Divine power, divine techniques, battle soul. Everyone was unscrupulous. However, the door of the main hall never moved. How can it be opened? Qin Feiyang was seething with anger. Outside the door was the third floor, but this step was like a natural moat that couldn't be crossed. Chapter 1915. In the main hall, for a moment, there was dead silence. Everyone looked at the door with a dejected expression. Cui Li suddenly spoke, breaking the silence. "Young master, try to sense here and see if you can sense the existence of the inner demons." Qin Feiyang closed his eyes. A moment later, he opened his eyes and shook his head. "I can't sense it." "Then what do we do now?" Zhao Tailai asked. If they knew the coordinates outside, they could open the space-time gate and go out directly. But no one here had been to the third floor. Everyone fell silent again. Tantaili looked at Qin Feiyang and advised, "Feiyang, forget it. Listen to the Fire Python and go to the ancient world first." With such a big commotion, Ice Dragon and small beasts did not appear. This means that they are no longer on the third floor. It seems meaningless for us to continue to stay here, Tanwu also said. Qin Feiyang looked at the door, his eyes gloomy. Boom! Suddenly, a terrifying aura descended in the main hall. In an instant, Qin Feiyang and the others felt as if they had fallen into a bottomless abyss, their bodies cold. This aura, it's Ice Dragon. Everyone's eyes trembled as they looked up. They immediately saw a 1-meter-long ice dragon floating in the air above the main hall. Ice Dragon glanced at the group of people and sneered, "Fire Python's courage is really not small. You actually dare to disobey my orders." Qin Feiyang's heart sank. He hurriedly said, "This has nothing to do with Fire Python. I crippled its cultivation and entered the third floor." "Is that so?" Ice Dragon was stunned and asked. Qin Feiyang shouted, "Don't talk nonsense. Return the inner demons and Lu Jiajin to me." "Where did you find the courage to speak to me in such a tone?" Ice Dragon's eyes turned cold. Divine power rolled out and pounced towards Qin Feiyang and the others. Bang, bang, bang. At that moment, the group of people flew out and smashed into the cold ground. Blood flowed all over their bodies, and they looked extremely miserable. "Bastard!" Qin Feiyang roared. "Feiyang, calm down." Tantaili hurriedly grabbed Qin Feiyang. Ice Dragon mocked, "That's right. Calm down and be more polite. Otherwise, all of you will die here today." "What are you trying to do?" Qin Feiyang said angrily. "What do you want to do?" "Haha, this is just a game. And you're just a pawn in this game." Ice Dragon said. "Game," Qin Feiyang murmured. His hands were tightly clenched together. His fingertips sank into his flesh and blood dripped down through the gaps between his fingers. "The inner demons and Lu Jiajin weren't very obedient, so I killed them. Not even their bones were left. So, even if I let you enter the third level now, it's meaningless." Ice Dragon said calmly, "You will pay the price." Qin Feiyang enunciated every word, his eyes bloodshot. "Haha," Ice Dragon laughed and said, "You're really overestimating yourself? Fine, just because of your words, I'll keep your little life first. Let's see what price you can make me pay." His expression was full of contempt. After saying that, Ice Dragon waved his claws. Qin Feiyang and the others immediately felt an invisible force shrouding them. Swish. Following closely, they only felt their bodies lighten, and then their eyes fell into darkness. Ancient realm. As usual, the dim sky, the tragic aura, and the broken earth made people involuntarily feel a sense of palpitations in their hearts. An ancient stone door stood in the middle of a dilapidated square, as if it would be blown down by a gust of wind. Swish! Suddenly, a group of people appeared on the square in front of the stone door. It was Qin Feiyong and the others. This is? Tanwu scanned his surroundings in bewilderment. Zhao Tailai looked around, frowned slightly, and said, "This is the ancient realm." "What? This is the ancient realm?" Tan Aili, Qin Rushuang, Mermaid Princess, Lei Bao, Lin Yi, Hellhound, and Tan Wu all entered the ancient realm for the first time. Therefore, he was curious about everything here. "I didn't expect this ice dragon to not kill us." Tang Hai exhaled a long breath. Chui Li said, "We escaped a disaster, but I'm really worried about the fire python situation." Zhao Tailai said, "Young master just said that this has nothing to do with the fire python. I think ice dragon won't do anything to it." Chui Li pondered for a while, glanced at the stone door next to him, and said, "Why don't we go out and take a look?" "It's best not to go out now, because once Ice Dragon knows that we ran out of the ancient realm to care about the fire python, it will be tantamount to confessing without being pressed," Tang Hai said. "That's true." Chui Li nodded. Following closely, several people looked at Qin Feiyong, their expressions full of worry, because since coming to the ancient realm, Qin Feiyong lowered his head and did not say a word. Phew. A moment later, Qin Feiyong took a deep breath, suppressed the anger and killing intent in his heart, and said, "Zhao Tailai, see if Guoda is still lurking nearby." The last time they entered the ancient realm, Guoda was squatting nearby. Maybe this time too. Zhao Tailai nodded, released his divine sense, and searched the surroundings. A moment later, he withdrew his divine sense, looked at Qin Feiyong and said, "I didn't find Guoda's trace, and no one else." "That's good," Qin Feiyong muttered. Although Guo Zixiong had given him soul stones twice, and had always been amiable, he always felt that things were not so simple. So before officially meeting, it was best to investigate the Guo family's background thoroughly. "What are you talking about? What Guoda?" The mermaid princess looked suspiciously at Qin Feiyong and the others. Zhao Tailai and the others' expressions suddenly became a little unnatural. One must know that in the ancient realm, Qin Feiyong still had a fiancée. Tan Wu looked at everyone at this time, cupped his hands, and said with a smile, "Everyone, since we have already come to the ancient realm, then we will bid farewell here." Immediately after, he looked at Qin Feiyong again and comforted, "Don't be too sad. After all, the road ahead is still very long. We have to go on strong." "Thank you. Take care." Qin Feiyong did not stop him. Since Uncle Yuan let Tan Wu and the Hell Godhound enter the ancient realm, he must want to let the two of them play freely. Tan Wu smiled, jumped up, landed on the Hell Godhound's back, and shouted, "Damn dog, let's go." "Fuck. Am I your mount? Get down." The Hell Godhound yelled angrily. While running wildly, it bumped Tan Wu and quickly disappeared from everyone's sight. Lin Yi glanced at everyone, looked at Mermaid Princess and said, "I'm leaving too." "You're leaving too?" Mermaid Princess was taken aback and hurriedly said, "Come with us. We can take care of each other." "Thank you." Lin Yi smiled, then left without looking back. Mermaid Princess wanted to chase, but Qin Feiyong reached out and stopped her. He shook his head and said, "Don't force it." Mermaid Princess frowned and said, "But she obviously doesn't want to face us now. If we still force her to stay, it will only put everyone in an awkward situation. Let her be. When she recovers her memory in the future, she will come to us." Qin Feiyong said. "Sigh." Mermaid Princess sighed. "Young master." After Emperor Qin entered the third level, he inexplicably appeared in the ancient realm. "Do you think there is some connection between this ancient realm and the third level of miracle?" Zhao Tailai said. "I don't know." Qin Feiyong shook his head, closed his eyes again, and once again sensed the existence of the inner demons. He was unwilling to give up. He really couldn't accept the fact that the inner demons were dead. However, after a long time, he still couldn't sense the existence of the inner demons in the ancient realm. Mermaid Princess grabbed Qin Feiyong's hand and said, "Feiyong, don't be like this. We feel uncomfortable. Yeah. Tantai and others also nodded. Qin Feiyang looked at them one by one. After a short silence, he lowered his head and said, I'm sorry to make everyone worry, but it's fine now. That's right. Blood Kirin grinned and said, but there is one thing that I have been holding back for a long time. Now, I have to say it. What is it? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. You gave away the picture of 10,000 beasts, dragon vein sword, Kirin armor, and wind moon pavilion, which weakened our overall strength by several times. In the future, if we encounter a powerhouse, what should we do? Qin Feiyang's actions made the Blood Kirin very unhappy. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He shook his head and said with a smile, Don't we still have the Golden Pearl and the Space-Time Gate? You gave the Golden Pearl to the lady. Although the Space-Time Gate can travel through the void, it doesn't have any destructive power. It doesn't help increase our combat strength at all. The Blood Kirin pouted. The lady it was talking about was not Tantai, but the Mermaid Princess. Tantai smiled and said, It's okay. I brought the God Tower in. The God Tower. The Blood Kirin's eyes lit up. The God Tower was a legendary artifact. With this artifact guarding it, they could boldly explore the ancient realm. Chui Li glanced at the Blood Kirin and said, No matter how strong the God Tower is, it is just an external object. Don't rely on it too much. I agree. The most important thing is still our own strength. We have rested for so long. It's time to work hard. Young master, take us to the castle, Zhao Tailai said. Tantai turned to Qin Rushuang and said with a smile, Rushuang, you also go into seclusion to cultivate. Okay. Qin Rushuang nodded. Qin Feiyang looked at Zhao Tailai and the others and said with a smile, Then you all have to work harder. Don't be left behind by me. After saying that, he waved his hand and the group immediately disappeared. Only the Mermaid Princess and Tantai remained outside. Tantai glanced at Qin Feiyang and said lightly, Kid, don't be careless. In the castle, 1 day is equivalent to 1 year. They are not mediocre people. If they are not careful, they may catch up with you or even surpass you. It would be best if they could surpass me. However, without the Soul Stone, even with the castle, it will not be easy for them to break through. After all, at the War God realm, every step forward is very difficult. Qin Feiyang said. So, the most important thing now is to find the Soul Stone? Tantai asked. Qin Feiyang said, Not only do we need to find the Soul Stone, but we also need to find the God tactics. Other than Tang Hai and the Blood Kirin, the others lack powerful God tactics. Tantai sighed and said, I don't care about the rest. I just hope that we can find clues about your ancestor as soon as possible. We will. Qin Feiyang smiled. The reason why Tantai and Qin Rushuang had entered the ancient realm was to find the whereabouts of their ancestor. However, they had to be mentally prepared in advance. After all, their ancestor had disappeared for so many years. It would not be easy to find him. Literature Museum. Chapter 1916. I believe that you must still be alive, because I can feel it. Tantai muttered to herself, turned her head to look at Qin Feiyang, and asked, Which direction should we go? Which direction? Qin Feiyang glanced around and suddenly thought of a person. Wait for me, Qin Feiyang said to the two of them, and then appeared in the Black Tortoise realm. Then, he closed his eyes and extended his perception infinitely. Soon, he found the undead in the depths of the desert, but his expression was a little shocked. Whoosh! The next moment, he appeared above a sand dune. Below, a young woman was standing on a sand dune. Her figure was excellent, and her waist was small and slender. Her two slender jade-like legs were incomparably tall. Her facial features were also extremely exquisite, especially her eyes, which were like gemstones, ethereal with a trace of confusion. She stood quietly on the sand dune alone, without a single piece of clothing on her body. Everything was presented in front of Qin Feiyang at a glance. Her beautiful black hair danced in the wind. Even with Qin Feiyang's temperament, he couldn't help but feel restless when he saw this scene. Cough, cough. Qin Feiyang coughed dryly. The woman was startled and looked up at Qin Feiyang. Gusts of wind whistled, blowing the hair on her forehead. A fire lotus symbol appeared between her eyebrows. Qin Feiyang looked at the symbol with a trace of suspicion in his eyes. You're here. The woman spoke and smiled slightly, looking extremely charming. Her voice was also very pleasant, like an oriole coming out of the valley. Qin Feiyang nodded and said awkwardly, You'd better put on some clothes first. Clothes? The woman was stunned, and her face was slightly red. Divine power emerged and transformed into a pale yellow dress on her body. Qin Feiyang looked up and down at the woman. This was a woman who could be on par with the mermaid princess. Her every move, every frown, every smile could affect a man's heart. Qin Feiyang asked, Are you really that undead? The woman nodded. Qin Feiyang asked, What about your memories? A trace of disappointment appeared on the woman's face. She sighed and said, After I condensed my physical body, I have been here. I tried to recall the past, but many things are a blur. Qin Feiyang frowned. What's your name? I can't remember either. The woman shook her head. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. He comforted her. Take your time, don't worry. Yes. The woman nodded. Qin Feiyang asked, You don't have to devour undead anymore, do you? The woman replied, There are no more undead here. Ugh. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He shook his head helplessly and said, Then let's go out. I have already entered the ancient realm and need your help. My pleasure. The woman nodded with a smile. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the two of them suddenly appeared outside. Seeing Qin Feiyang suddenly bring out a strange woman, Tantai Li and the mermaid princess looked a little stunned. After coming back to her senses, Tantai Li teased, Boy, I didn't know that you have learned to keep a mistress in a golden house. Qin Feiyang shook his head with a wry smile and said, Let me introduce you. This is my great-grandmother, and this is my wife. Hello. The woman bowed politely and smiled. The mermaid princess looked at the woman, then looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, What about her? She is an undead. Qin Feiyang said. What? An undead? Tantai Li and the mermaid princess looked at each other. Tantai Li said in surprise, Are you talking about the undead you brought out of the ancient realm? Qin Feiyang nodded. How is this possible? An undead can condense a physical body? Tantai Li found it hard to accept that it was a living woman. Qin Feiyang said, She devoured all the undead in the desert, so she slowly condensed a physical body. The woman said, I will continue in the future because I can't cultivate now. I can only devour undead to become stronger. Qin Feiyang said with a smile, This ancient realm doesn't lack undead. The mermaid princess asked, Then should we call you? The woman thought for a moment, then touched the fire lotus between her eyebrows and said, You can call me Fire Lotus. Fire Lotus? Qin Feiyang and the others looked at each other. Although my memory is very vague, I can vaguely feel that this Fire Lotus mark is very important to me. It is even possible that this Fire Lotus mark represents my identity. After the woman finished speaking, her divine power surged again and condensed into a mask, covering her face and the Fire Lotus mark. What are you doing? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. The woman said with a smile, Before I figure out my identity, it is best not to let others see this mark to avoid being used by others. Qin Feiyang suddenly smiled and said, You've considered everything quite thoroughly. Although I can't remember the past, I still have a sense of crisis. Let's not talk about this first. What do you need me to do? The woman said. Qin Feiyang said, You should know where the Gua clan is, right? The Gua clan. The woman thought for a moment and asked, Are you talking about the two people called Guaji and Guada? Qin Feiyang nodded. Seeing this, the woman's eyes flashed with killing intent. Qin Feiyang said with a smile, It seems that you don't have a good impression of the Gua clan. Of course. Back in the ancient realm, Guaji repeatedly came to find trouble with me. Last time, he even brought Guada. If you hadn't saved me, my soul would have been scattered. The woman's eyes were filled with bone-chilling coldness. Qin Feiyang asked, Then do you know where the Gua clan is? I do. Once, Guaji brought a few burly men over. I killed those burly men and Guaji escaped. After that, I followed him and went to his clan. The woman said, Qin Feiyang said with a smile, "It's good that you know. Bring me there." "Are you sure? The Gua clan has more than 30 war gods. You know Gua Zixiong's cultivation? He is a great success war god. Gua Zixiong's father is even stronger than Gua Zixiong. He is a perfect war god." The woman said. "Perfect war god." Qin Feiyang's eyes trembled. Tantai Li and the mermaid princess were also extremely shocked. Just the Gua family alone had more than 30 war gods, and even a perfected war god in charge? Heavens! What kind of world is this ancient realm? How many powerful warriors are there? Qin Feiyang calmed himself down and said, "How much do you know? Like the Gua clan?" "I've only been there once and was almost discovered by Gua Zixiong. So, I didn't stay for long. I only know a little about their strength." The woman said. Qin Feiyang said, "Looks like I have to go there. Since you insist, I'll lead the way for you." After saying that, the woman headed west. "Great-grandmother, follow me." Qin Feiyang called out to Tantai Li. Then, he pulled the mermaid princess and chased after the woman. The mermaid princess asked suspiciously, "Feiyang, who is the Gua clan? Why do you care so much about them?" "Girl, you still don't know. Qin Feiyang is here, and he has a fiancée. And this fiancée is Gua Zixiong's daughter." Tantai Li joked. "What?" The mermaid princess was stunned. "Great-grandmother, do you want to see the world in chaos?" Qin Feiyang was quite angry. Then, he suddenly frowned and said, "Wait, great-grandmother, how do you know about this? I don't remember telling you before, right? You think you can hide it from me? I already knew from Zhao Tailai and the others." Tantai Li snorted. "Those big mouths." Qin Feiyang cursed angrily. He turned to the mermaid princess and said, "Even I am a little confused about this, so don't think too much about it." "Great-grandmother, are you telling the truth?" the mermaid princess said. Qin Feiyang nodded with a wry smile. "Humph, you're really something. You came to the divine site and got a fiancé." The mermaid princess snorted coldly. "I swear to God, I don't even know what the woman looks like. It's purely something done by my ancestor." Qin Feiyang hurriedly told the mermaid princess the details of the marriage contract. "I see." The mermaid princess nodded. "So, I can't accept this fiancé at all. Moreover, although the handwriting on the marriage contract is indeed the same as my ancestors, it can't be ruled out that Gua Zixiong and the others imitated it," Qin Feiyang said. "But one thing is certain. Your ancestor did appear in the ancient world," Tantai Li said. Qin Feiyang nodded. On the way, Qin Feiyang and the female fire lotus didn't stay idle. They carefully searched the surrounding land with their divine sense. The undead creatures that they encountered were all devoured by the fire lotus. Qin Feiyang also found 3 ancient sites. These ancient sites were all left behind by the god of war. Unfortunately, there were no divine weapons or divine arts, but there were a dozen soul stones. The mermaid princess was very curious when she saw the soul stones for the first time, especially when she learned that the soul stones had a great effect on condensing divine sense. She was even more surprised. She tried to refine one soul stone, and the effect was indeed terrifying. As for the other dozen soul stones, Qin Feiyang sent them to the ancient castle for Qin Rushuang, the white-eyed wolf, Lei Bao, the willow tree, and Yu Huang to refine. After all, it was difficult to be useful in the ancient world if they didn't break through to the god of war. About an hour later, boom, crack, suddenly, there were waves of fighting in the void in front of them. "What's going on?" Qin Feiyang was surprised. "I've been here before. There are no humans in this area. Could it be undead creatures fighting?" The female fire lotus mumbled. Her eyes lit up when she mentioned undead creatures. Tantai Li glanced at the female fire lotus and said, "Feiyang, can you see through her cultivation?" "Cultivation?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. He really didn't pay attention to this person's cultivation. Then, he looked at the female fire lotus, and a trace of surprise appeared in his eyes. The female had concealed her aura, but he could still see through her cultivation. She was an early-stage god of war. Her strength wasn't simple. After a few dozen breaths of time, Qin Feiyang's group stopped at the peak of a barren mountain and raised their heads to look ahead. they saw two groups of people fighting in the void in front of them. There were more than 20 people on both sides. Every one of them was covered in blood and looked extremely miserable. Their cultivation was at the early stage god of war. Literature Center. Chapter 1917. So many gods of war? The mermaid princess stared with her mouth agape. 1, 2, 3. Tantalus counted silently. In the end, a look of shock appeared on her face. Both sides have 23 people. In other words, there are a total of 46 gods of war here. Tantalus said in a deep voice. 46 gods of war. When Qin Feiyang heard the number, his heart could not calm down. Thinking back to the battle with the demon ancestor in the Sea of Reincarnation, it was already shocking enough. But at that time, including the Blood Kirin, there were only 6 gods of war by his side, and the demon ancestor's side only had 12 gods of war. Even in total, there were only 18 gods of war. But now, the two groups fighting here had 23 gods of war on each side. Could it be that there were as many gods of war as dogs in the ancient realm? The mermaid princess said again, and each of them has a divine artifact and divine art. Clang, clang. Qin Feiyang glanced at them one by one. As expected, the 46 people were either holding divine artifacts or wearing battle armor. Divine arts flew all over the sky. The ancient realm I saw the first 2 times was just the tip of the iceberg. Qin Feiyang could not help but smile bitterly. He could tell at a glance that these divine arts and divine artifacts were not of high grades. Most of them were low-grade divine arts and low-grade divine artifacts. But even so, it was shocking enough. No wonder Dong Zhengyang wanted to bring the demon ancestor and the others to the ancient realm. Here, their strength can indeed grow rapidly. Feiyang, we can't relax either. The mermaid princess said. Yes, we have been cultivating in the Great Qin for half a year, and they have been cultivating in the ancient realm for half a year. I think they have all broken through by now. Tantalus said. Don't worry about that. Mu Tianyang's space divine item has been destroyed, which means that he no longer has a time array. Although the demon ancestor's demon pagoda is still there, I don't think they will stay together. As for Dong Zhengyang, I can't say for sure. Maybe the snow python also gave him a space divine item with a time array, or maybe not. But regardless, I don't care. Because I believe that their time formations can't compare to the ancient castle, Qin Feiyang said with a confident smile. We can't be careless either. Although the ancient castle's time array is heaven-defying, this is still the ancient world. We don't even know if there's any divine item that surpasses the ancient castle here. Tantalus said. That's true. Qin Feiyang nodded. Rumble. The battle between the two sides was getting more and more intense. It was a battle of life and death. Why are they fighting? There has to be a reason, right? The mermaid princess was suspicious. Gautai, you've gone too far. Suddenly, a furious roar came from afar. This voice. Qin Feiyang was taken aback. What's wrong? The mermaid princess and Tantalus looked at him suspiciously. This is Guada's voice. Follow me. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. He activated the concealment technique and took Tantalus, the mermaid princess, and the fire lotus to the sky and flew in the direction of the voice. About 10 breaths passed. Another battlefield came into sight. On the battlefield, the 2 old men were bathed in blood as they fought. They fought until the sky turned dark. One of the old men was wearing a linen robe with white hair. It was Guada. The other was a red-haired old man who was also wearing a linen robe. His whole body was covered in flames like a fire god. The aura he emitted was not weaker than Guada. I was wondering why they weren't guarding the entrance of the ancient world. It turned out that a war had broken out. Qin Feiyang murmured. Even further away, there was another battlefield. The fluctuations and aura of the battle were more terrifying than here. Qin Feiyang took the 3 of them and flew over brazenly. Although they were brazen, they activated the concealment technique. Neither Guada nor the red-haired old man noticed them. When they flew to the battlefield, Qin Feiyang could not help but frown. In the battlefield, there were 2 middle-aged men who were also engaged in a bloody battle. One of them was burly with a height of 2 meters. He was like a small giant. His upper body was bare, and he only wore a pair of large underpants. His whole body emitted a valiant aura. The other man was wearing a black linen robe. His body was slightly thin, and his eyes were deep. His facial features were sharp, and there were strands of white hair at his temples. His expression was rather cold. The cultivation of the two men was stronger than Guada and the red-haired old man. They were war gods in the greater success stage. Moreover, they each had a divine artifact in their hands. The burly man had a battle axe in his hand. It was about the size of a wash basin. It was completely black, as if it was made of black iron. The middle-aged man in black had a divine artifact in his hand. It was a pure gold battle sword that was 5 fingers wide. Both of them emitted a sharp aura that could tear the sky and earth apart. What's wrong? Mermaid Princess saw Qin Feiyang frowning and was somewhat puzzled. Qin Feiyang sent a sound transmission. That black-clothed middle-aged man is Guazixiong. Tantai was startled. She looked at Guazixiong and secretly teased. So he is your future father-in-law? Great-grandmother. What nonsense are you talking about? Qin Feiyang was helpless. Haha. Tantai laughed secretly. Qin Feiyang shook his head, looked at Guazixiong and the burly man and frowned. Such a large-scale battle. What exactly are they doing? Aren't you going to help them? After all, they gave you a lot of soul stones the previous 2 times. Mermaid Princess secretly said. When Qin Feiyang heard this, his eyes flickered. Indeed, Guazixiong had helped him a lot, because, without the soul stone, he wouldn't have been able to break through to the war god so quickly. Without breaking through to the war god, he wouldn't be able to unleash the full power of the 6-word divine arts. Without the 6-word divine arts, he wouldn't have any chance of defeating the demon ancestor. Then the current Great Qin and Forgotten Continent would definitely be in a different situation. After pondering for a moment, Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and said, "Let's take a look at the situation first. At the moment, the Guo family doesn't show any signs of defeat." Time passed bit by bit. Both sides were heavily injured, but the flames of war had not stopped. And from the beginning to the end, the woman Fire Lotus's expression didn't change at all, as if she was watching a very ordinary battle. Tantai said, "From the looks of it, if we continue to fight, both sides will definitely suffer." Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. He looked at the 3 of them and smiled. "You guys go into the castle first?" Mermaid Princess said worriedly. "Then you have to be careful." "Girl, don't worry. Not to mention these small success, great success. Even perfect war god is not a match for your sweetheart," Tantai said. Mermaid Princess's face flushed red. Qin Feiyang laughed. "Little girl, you have to learn from great-grandmother on this point. No matter what, you have to have full confidence in me." And Mermaid Princess nodded. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and sent the 3 of them to the castle. Then, he looked at the burly man, his eyes flashing with a cold light. Shua. Following closely, he silently approached the burly man. The burly man and Guazixiong were fighting fiercely, but suddenly, an unprecedented sense of danger rose in his heart. However, the burly man didn't think that there were other people hiding in the dark. He only thought that this sense of danger was brought by Guazixiong. So, he didn't escape, but was wary of Guazixiong. Clang! The giant axe and the battle sword crazily collided in the air, bursting out with dazzling flames. Qin Feiyang glanced at the giant axe and finally shook his head in disappointment. Originally, he wanted to take the opportunity to snatch the giant axe, but according to his observation, it was only a middle-grade divine artifact. It didn't even have a weapon spirit, so it was meaningless to take it. And the battle sword in Guazixiong's hand was only a middle-grade divine artifact. It seemed that even in the ancient world, a supreme-grade divine artifact was very rare, let alone a peak-level and legendary divine artifact. The sense of danger didn't disappear for a long time. The burly man frowned and said angrily, "Guazixiong, what means do you have? Show them all, don't hide." "What do you mean?" Guazixiong didn't understand. "Humph, don't hide it. I can already feel the threat. You must be hiding some trump card," the burly man said. "Threat?" Guazixiong was stunned. What was this and what? He didn't understand at all. But at this moment, a young man in white suddenly appeared behind the burly man. It was Qin Feiyang. Guo Zixiang was facing the burly man, so he immediately noticed Qin Feiyang, and his body suddenly stiffened. Just as Qin Feiyang appeared, the burly man also sensed Qin Feiyang's aura, and his face immediately changed. It was also at this moment that he realized that the sense of danger in his heart didn't come from Guo Zixiang. Who is it? But in just a moment, the burly man reacted, and without hesitation, he swung his axe at Qin Feiyang. The sharp edge covered the sky, shattering the sky. So fast? Qin Feiyang was surprised, but he didn't dodge at all. He directly raised his arm and reached for the giant axe with his bare hands. Seeing this, Guo Zixiang's face changed drastically, and he hurriedly shouted, "Get out of the way!" Fighting against a divine artifact with bare hands? It was simply crazy. However, Qin Feiyang turned a deaf ear. Clang! In an instant, the big hand and the giant axe met, and there was a loud, ear-piercing sound. Immediately after, an incredible scene appeared in front of Guo Zixiang's eyes. He saw that Qin Feiyang actually grabbed the giant axe with his bare hands, and he was even holding the blade of the giant axe. Moreover, there was no blood flowing out of his hand. In other words, the giant axe didn't even scratch his skin. How is it possible to fight against a middle-grade divine artifact with bare hands? Guo Zixiang's eyes widened in anger. This kind of thing was too ridiculous. The burly man turned around and his face suddenly changed, his face full of disbelief. In fact, this was nothing to Qin Feiyang. Back when he helped the inner demons to go through the tribulation, his physical body had been greatly strengthened after being tempered by the tribulation. Although later on, when he opened the door of rebirth and his divine body disintegrated, when the child used the heart of origin to help him reconstruct his physical body, he didn't make any changes. In other words, his physical body was still at the same level as before. A mere middle-grade divine artifact, let alone blocking it, he could even crush it with his bare hands. It can't be. It must be a smokescreen. It's impossible for a mere body of flesh and blood to block a divine artifact. The burly man murmured and wanted to withdraw the axe, but he found that Qin Feiyang's strength was beyond his imagination. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't shake off Qin Feiyang's hand that was holding the giant axe. Chapter 1918. Who are you? The burly man stared at Qin Feiyang, his eyes filled with fear. Although Qin Feiyang was only a low-level war god and was weaker than the burly man and Guo Zixiang, the methods he displayed shocked the two of them. Qin Feiyang smiled but didn't say anything. His 5 fingers suddenly exerted force. Immediately, accompanied by a loud clang, the giant axe shattered into pieces under the horrified gazes of the two. What? The two of them trembled both physically and mentally, their eyeballs almost popping out. A dignified middle-grade divine artifact was shattered just like that? Heavens! Was this a dream? Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. His expression did not change. Divine power shot out from his palm and slapped towards the burly man's lower abdomen. The burly man regained his senses and wanted to dodge, but it was too late. Ah! Accompanied by a painful scream, divine power tore apart the flesh on the burly man's lower abdomen and entered his qi. His qi shattered on the spot. Once his qi shattered, the burly man's aura dissipated like the tide and fell down powerlessly. It's over just like that? Guo Zixiang was stunned in the air. He was so shocked that he couldn't close his mouth. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Uncle, long time no see." Guo Zixiang quivered and looked at the burly man below him. Then, he quickly put away his battle sword and ran in front of Qin Feiyang. He said in surprise, "Feiyang, when did you come?" "Not long ago." Qin Feiyang said, "You came at the right time. If it wasn't for your help, even if our Guo family won this battle, we would have suffered heavy losses." Guo Zixiang was overjoyed. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Uncle, you're too polite. It was just a small matter." A small matter? Guo Zixiang was stunned. He sized up Qin Feiyang and helplessly shook his head. As expected of Brother Baishan's descendant, he remembered that the last time Qin Feiyang came to the ancient realm, he was only a false god. How long had it been? Only half a year. Not only did he step into the War God realm, he even broke through to the small success War God realm. This speed was truly shocking. Qin Feiyang said, I have to thank Uncle. If it weren't for those soul stones, my cultivation wouldn't have advanced so quickly. Guo Zixiong rolled his eyes at Qin Feiyang and said, We'll be a family in the future. Why are you being so polite? A family, Qin Feiyang muttered to himself. Pointing at the burly man who had fallen to the ground below, he asked suspiciously, Uncle, who are they? Why are you fighting? It's a long story. I'll tell you when I have time. Guo Zixiong smiled and swooped down. He landed in front of the burly man and sneered, Surnamed Gao, you didn't expect that my Guo family would have such a terrifying young man. The burly man's eyes darkened. He looked at Qin Feiyang, then at Guo Zixiong and said, How come I've never heard of such a person in your Guo family? He is my future son-in-law. How is it? Is he worthy of your attention? Guo Zixiong smiled proudly. Future son-in-law? The burly man was stunned. Forget it. There's no need to talk nonsense with you. Today is the end of your Gao family. A cold light flashed in Guo Zixiong's eyes. He kicked the burly man's head, which immediately exploded like a watermelon. His divine soul was also destroyed on the spot. How cruel. Qin Feiyang muttered to himself as he watched this scene. He really didn't know whether it was right or wrong to help the Guo family. If the Guo family was in the wrong first, wouldn't he be helping the evildoer? Forget it. Let's not think so much. Our ancestors ruled the world with benevolence and righteousness. If this person can be friends with our ancestors, his nature shouldn't be bad. Qin Feiyang muttered. After Guo Zixiong killed the burly man, he took a ring from the man's index finger. Then he flew into the air and landed in front of Qin Feiyang. He said with a smile, Let's go and help the other clansmen. Qin Feiyang nodded and followed Guo Zixiong. He glanced at the ring and asked suspiciously, Uncle, is that ring a divine artifact? Guo Zixiong was stunned. He looked at the ring in his hand and asked, You mean this? Qin Feiyang nodded. Guo Zixiong smiled and said, This is not a divine artifact. It's an interspatial ring. An interspatial ring? Qin Feiyang was stunned. You don't know. In the ancient world, those who have some ability basically use interspatial rings. Like interspatial bags, interspatial rings are used to store things. But the difference is that the space inside an interspatial ring is hundreds of times larger than that of an interspatial bag. No matter how much wealth or how big an item is, it can hold it. But this interspatial ring is quite expensive. Most people still use interspatial bags. Guo Zixiong explained. I see. Qin Feiyang nodded. It's very novel, isn't it? There are many things in the ancient world that are different from those in your world. For example, we don't have the teleportation gate in your world. And the currency. You use gold coins, but we use divine crystals. Guo Zixiong smiled. Divine crystals? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Guo Zixiong asked suspiciously, You know about divine crystals? Qin Feiyang said, I don't know if the divine crystals I know are the same as the divine crystals you're talking about. The divine crystals he was talking about were naturally the divine crystals fused with the divine towers. Guo Zixiong was stunned. He cut his finger and dripped his blood on the interspatial ring to claim ownership. Then, Guo Zixiong took out a white oval crystal from the interspatial ring. It was half the size of a baby and emitted a white brilliance. This is the divine crystal. Guo Zixiong handed the divine crystal to Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang looked at the divine crystal suspiciously and then grabbed it in his hand. A stream of pure energy suddenly flowed into his palm and flowed along his arm into his sea of qi and turned into divine power. This, Qin Feiyang was shocked. This divine crystal is not only the currency of the ancient world, but also can replenish or restore divine power. In short, the effect of the divine crystal is similar to that of the battle qi pill. Guo Zixiong smiled. Qin Feiyang nodded and said with a smile, This is different from the divine crystal I'm talking about. The divine crystal I'm talking about is a divine artifact. Then it's just the name. Feiyang, there's something I need to tell you in advance. In our ancient world, there are 3 things that are indispensable. Guo Zixiong said. What are they? Qin Feiyang asked. The first is the divine crystal. The second is the soul stone. The third is the teleportation altar. Here, no matter where you go to trade, you'll need divine crystals. During battle, you'll also need divine crystals to replenish your divine power. As for the soul stone, I don't need to tell you. As for the teleportation altar, it's the same as the teleportation gate in your world. It's used to cross the void. Guo Zixiong said. Using the teleportation altar to cross the void? That's too extravagant. Qin Feiyang was surprised. Of course, the teleportation altar here is a one-time use item. It can't teleport to other continents. However, the teleportation distance is a few hundred times that of the teleportation gate. Moreover, low-level items like the teleportation gate can't be activated here. Guo Zixiong smiled. If the teleportation gate can't be activated, then there's definitely no teleportation gate here. Then, how did Uncle know about the teleportation gate? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Of course, it's because of your ancestor. When he came to the ancient world, I saw the teleportation gate and heard him talk about it. I also know a little about the situation in your world. Guo Zixiong smiled. I see. Qin Feiyang suddenly realized and asked curiously, how big is the ancient world? The size of the ancient world is beyond your imagination. Even I, a native, only know the tip of the iceberg. As for the details of the ancient world, I'll tell you slowly when we return to the clan. Guo Zixiong said. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. While talking, the two had already approached the battlefield of Guoda and the red-haired old man. Guo Zixiong's aura was not concealed at all. When he saw Guo Zixiong and Qin Feiyang, Guoda's expression was immediately stunned. At the same time, the red-haired old man's expression suddenly changed. Guo Zixiong actually came? Then, wouldn't the patriarch of the Gao family be, old thing, the end of your Gao family has arrived? Guo Zixiong's eyes flashed fiercely. Before his voice faded, he took out the battle sword and attacked the red-haired old man. Damn it! What the hell happened? Is the patriarch dead or not? The red-haired old man pushed Guodu away with his palm and roared, Everyone, retreat! His voice was like a bell, resounding in all directions. Obviously, he was reminding the 23 gods of war on the other side of the battlefield. After saying that, the red-haired old man turned around and fled without looking back. Qin Feiyang looked at this scene and was a little puzzled. Guo Zixiong said before that although the ancient world could not open the portal, it could open the altar. Then, why didn't the red-haired old man activate the altar to escape? Guo Zixiong said, Second uncle, leave this person to me. Quickly go over there to support. Don't let anyone escape. Okay. Guoda nodded and glanced at Qin Feiyang. He temporarily suppressed the doubts in his heart and teleported away. At this time, the red-haired old man had already activated the altar. He was about to escape, but at this time, Guo Zixiong attacked. Guo Zixiong's cultivation was higher than the red-haired old man's, so naturally, his speed was also faster than the red-haired old man. However, in the blink of an eye, he caught up with the battle sword in his hand. The sword light shattered the void and the earth as he furiously slashed with the sword. Ah! Following a scream, the red-haired old man's body was split into two by the battle sword. Blood splattered across the sky. The altar was also instantly shattered by the sword chi. It's finally over, Guo Zixiong murmured. He found a chinquin bag from the red-haired old man's corpse, put away his battle sword, and flew towards Qin Feiyang. Chinquin bag? Qin Feiyang frowned. The black-clothed old man was an initial stage god of war, but he only used a chinquin bag? It seemed that what Guo Zixiong said was true. Chinquin rings were extremely expensive in the ancient world. Ah! At this time, on the other side of the battlefield, there were also screams of despair. Qin Feiyang raised his head to take a look. Presumably, Guo De had already rushed over. The Gao clan's people would probably all be buried here. After all, Guo De was an initial stage god of war. It was too easy for an initial stage god of war to kill an initial stage god of war, unless the other party had a very powerful technique. But obviously, the 23 gods of war of the Gao family did not have such a technique. Otherwise, they would not have fought with the Guo family until now. Chapter 1919. The battle gradually stopped. Guade led the 23 war gods of the Gua clan and flew over in a grandiose manner. Although they were all seriously injured, their faces were filled with smiles of victory. Patriarch, is this young man the brat called Qin Feiyang that you spoke of? The 23 war gods looked at Qin Feiyang curiously. Yes, we have to thank Feiyang this time. If he didn't cripple that Gao Gai's cultivation, we wouldn't know how long we would have to fight. Gua Zixiong said with a smile. What? He crippled that Gao Gai's cultivation? Patriarch, are you kidding? He's only a low-tier war god. How could he have such strength? Everyone was shocked. Guade's face was also filled with disbelief. Not only that, he also crushed that giant axe with his bare hands. In short, Feiyang's strength is not something you can compare to, Gua Zixiong said. Seeing that Gua Zixiong didn't seem to be joking, Guade and the others were shocked. Crushing a mid-tier divine artifact with his bare hands and crippling the cultivation of the patriarch of the Gao family. Feiyang, let me introduce you. Guade, my second uncle. You've met him before. These people are the direct descendants of the Gua family. They can be considered your elders. Gua Zixiong looked at Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, Hello, everyone. Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and smiled. Hello, little brother. They say that heroes come from the young. It's true. Our Sweki is also lucky to have found such a good husband. Everyone was talking at the same time, and they all had sincere smiles on their faces. It seems that the Gua family isn't a bunch of villains. Qin Feiyang muttered to himself. At first, he hesitated because he was worried that the Gua family was a big traitor. He didn't care about the so-called good husband, not to mention that he already had the mermaid princess. Even if he was single, he couldn't marry a woman he had never met and didn't know at all. Gua Zixiong smiled and said, Feiyang, let's go. Follow us back to the clan. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment, then nodded and said with a smile, all right. He definitely had to pay the Gua clan a visit. Although Gua Zixiong didn't know the whereabouts of his ancestor, perhaps he could find some clues by entering the Gua clan. Then, Qin Feiyang followed Gua Zixiong and the others and headed west. After galloping for a while, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but ask suspiciously, Uncle, why don't you activate the altar? Gua Zixiong said, Feiyang, there's something you don't know. This place is called the Land of the Undead. It's also considered a forbidden area, so it's impossible to activate the altar. Land of the Undead. Qin Feiyang glanced around. This place was full of lonely souls and wild ghosts. It was not an exaggeration to call it the Land of the Undead. Qin Feiyang said, Then tell me about the situation in the Ancient Realm. All right. The Ancient Realm is divided into 5 large plates. They are Dongling, Nanhuang, Shiji, Nanhuang, Nanhuang, and Shenzhou. Dongling, Nanhuang, 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 and Nanhuang are located in the 4 cardinal directions of the Ancient Realm. Shenzhou is located in the center of the Ancient Realm. And where we are now is in the border area of the Nanhuang, Gua Zixiong said. You're so strong, and you're still in the border area of the Nanhuang? Qin Feiyang was stunned. We're strong? Hearing Qin Feiyang's words, Gua Zixiong, Guade, and the others couldn't help but smile bitterly. What? Qin Feiyang looked at them suspiciously. Feiyang, you don't understand the situation in the Ancient Realm, so you think we're strong. But in fact, our Gua clan's position in the Ancient Realm is like a small village in your world. It's insignificant. Gua Zixiong sighed. Qin Feiyang was extremely shocked. There were so many war gods and even perfected war gods, but they were still so weak? Let me put it this way. In our northern region, even if a clan or force has a divine lord, it's at most a third-rate force. And our Gua clan, as well as the Gao clan from before, is nothing. Gua Zixiong shook his head and laughed self-deprecatingly. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but feel a storm in his heart. In the Great Qin Empire and the Forgotten Continent, there were no divine lords at all. Even the guardians of the 2 continents, Yuan Bo and the Snow Python, were only half-step divine lords. But in this place, a force with a divine lord could only be considered third-rate? What kind of world was this Ancient Realm? The ancient realm's territory is unimaginably large. Even for me, it would take a few years to cross the northern region. And the number of experts in the ancient realm is incalculable. Similarly, this is a place full of cold-blooded and cruel. Feiyang, in the future, you must be careful with every step because once you take a wrong step, you'll end up with your body crushed. Guo Zixiong warned. Thank you for your reminder, uncle. Qin Feiyang smiled gratefully. Even Guo Zixiong needed a few years to cross the northern region. This continent of the ancient realm was really ridiculously large. Soon, the land and sky in front gradually became clear, and he could already see some weeds and small trees growing tenaciously on this desolate land. Another moment passed. The vegetation on the ground became denser and denser, and he could slowly sense the existence of essence between heaven and earth. Guo Zixiong pointed ahead and said with a smile, after crossing the mountain ridge in front, "You'll be out of the land of the dead." Qin Feiyang raised his head and looked over. The mountain ridge was verdant and lush with vegetation. It was like a huge green dragon lying across the horizon, and the sky outside the mountain ridge was also clear. A sun hung high, emitting a soft light that illuminated the land. Qin Feiyang said with a smile, "I originally thought that the entire ancient realm was dark. How is that possible? This kind of phenomenon only exists in the land of the dead, and the outside world is no different from your world." No, there are some differences. That's essence. Although the land of the dead is lacking in essence, the essence outside is extremely rich. Moreover, the thing that the ancient realm lacks the least is resources like medicinal herbs. Let me put it this way. Even people who don't have the slightest talent for cultivation can rely on these essence and resources to accumulate their cultivation, Guo Zixiong said with a smile. Qin Feiyang said, "In that case, there isn't even a mortal in this ancient realm?" "Yes, there isn't a mortal here. All of them are cultivators." Guo Zixiong nodded. Qin Feiyang's eyes were dull. The situation in the ancient world had already far exceeded his imagination. He also began to look forward to it. How many surprises could this mystical continent bring him? While they were talking, the group had already crossed the mountain ridge. The scene in front of him deeply shocked Qin Feiyang. Outside the mountain ridge, there was a vast and boundless land. On the ground, mountain ranges overlapped, and ancient trees towered into the sky. Some giant peaks were as tall as 100,000 feet, towering into the clouds, emitting an incomparably majestic aura. The rivers were like giant pythons, twisting and turning, and in the mountains, there were countless ferocious beasts and birds. They were preying, killing, and roaring. Just within the range of his vision, Qin Feiyang sensed more than 100 war-god-level ferocious auras. There were even more pseudo-god-level ferocious auras. And what shocked Qin Feiyang the most was the essence here. What Guo Zixiong said was true. The essence of this world was completely incomparable to the great Qin and forgotten continent. The difference was estimated to be at least dozens of times. In such an environment, not to mention mortals, even a fool or an idiot could step on the path of cultivation. Very shocking, right? Guo Zixiong said with a smile. Qin Feiyang nodded. This was something that could not be denied. Guo Zixiong said, "When your ancestor first came to the ancient realm, he was the same as you?" "Ancestor?" Qin Feiyang pondered for a while, raised his head, looked at Guo Zixiong and said, "Uncle, do you really not know where my ancestor is now?" "I really don't know. Back then, when he left, he only said, 'I'll see you again,' and left." Guo Zixiong shook his head and smiled bitterly. Qin Feiyang thought for a while and asked, "Then in this ancient realm, how many people know about my ancestor's existence?" This, Guo Zixiong was a little hesitant. "What's wrong?" Qin Feiyang was suspicious. "Let me say something that you don't need to be angry with. Although your ancestor is a famous big shot on your continent, but in the ancient realm, he's nothing at all. So even if someone has seen him, they won't remember him." Guo Zixiong said, "Yes, if it wasn't for your ancestor's kindness to us, we wouldn't care about him," Guo De added. Qin Feiyang nodded thoughtfully. Indeed, back then, his ancestor was just a low-level war god like him. In the ancient realm, A low-level war god was just an insignificant character. Huff. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath, looked up at the vast land in front of him, and said with a smile, "The journey has officially begun. Don't let me down." Guo Zixiong and the others looked at each other. That confident smile, that expectant look, it was exactly the same as Qin Batian back then. "Uncle, let's go." Qin Feiyang took a step forward. "Wait." Guo Zixiong hurriedly pulled him back. "What's wrong?" Qin Feiyang turned his head and looked at him suspiciously. Guo Zixiong hurriedly said, "There are more than a dozen monarch god-level beasts in this mountain range. We can't go in." "Monarch god-level beasts?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. Guo Zixiong said, "Yes, we can't afford to provoke these terrifying existences. Let's just open the altar and go back." As he spoke, he took out a palm-sized altar. As divine power flowed in, the altar expanded and quickly recovered. Qin Feiyang looked at the altar and said, "Is this altar really a one-time use item?" Because the altar that Guo Zixiong took out was exactly the same as the altars in the Great Qin and Forgotten Continent. "It's real." Guo Zixiong nodded and stepped onto the altar. Guo De and the others also jumped up, but Qin Feiyang didn't. He looked away from the altar and scanned the mountains in front of him. Chapter 1920. "Feiyang, what are you doing?" Guo Zixiong looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously and asked. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Uncle, you guys go back first. I'll go take a walk in the mountains." "Are you crazy?" Guo Zixiong was furious. Guo De and the others also tried their best to get along. "This mountain was too dangerous. Don't do anything stupid." Chirp. Suddenly, in the distant mountains, there was a deafening cry, followed by a ferocious bird soaring into the sky. It was a black eagle. It spread its wings, and a strong wind blew. Its body was dozens of meters long, and it emitted a ferocious aura. It was at the level of an initial success war god. However, its expression was extremely flustered, as if it was running for its life. Boom. Crack. Then, accompanied by a series of earth-shaking explosions, another colossus shattered the earth and mountains, rushed into the sky, and bit down on the black eagle. It was the head of a giant python. Its entire body was blood-red, like a mountain. Its fangs were dense, and its huge pupils were also suffused with a cold light. Not good. Guo Zixiong and the others suddenly changed their expressions and were filled with fear. Qin Feiyang was also dumbfounded. That black eagle was an initial success war god, but it was bitten by the giant python and couldn't move at all. Just how strong was the giant python? Next, an even more terrifying scene appeared. That giant python actually swallowed the black eagle alive. Seeing this scene, Qin Feiyang swallowed his saliva and cold sweat flowed down. Not only was the black eagle an initial success war god, its body was also dozens of meters long, but it actually swallowed it whole. How big was that giant python? Qin Feiyang looked down along the head of the giant python. However, other than the head, the body of the giant python was blocked by a few giant peaks in front of it, so he couldn't see the whole picture. However, it was obvious that it was definitely a terrifying existence. Guo Zixiong urged, "Feiyang, hurry up. It is one of the overlords of this mountain range. If it discovers us, none of us will be able to escape." "One of the overlords? You mean it has the cultivation of a monarch god?" Qin Feiyang said. "Yes. Over 2,000 years ago, it stepped into the realm of an initial divine lord. Such an existence is definitely not someone you and I can provoke." Guo Zixiong said anxiously, "An initial divine lord." Qin Feiyang looked up at the giant head, his eyes flickering. Suddenly, the python looked over and saw Qin Feiyang, Guo Zixiong, and the others. "Damn it, hurry." Guo Zixiong's body trembled as he hastily shouted, but Qin Feiyang turned a deaf ear. Roar! The giant python roared fiercely, and waves of terrifying power surged over like a tide. Qin Feiyang trembled both physically and mentally. Facing this ferocious might, he felt as if he was facing the might of the heavens. A sense of insignificance arose spontaneously. Guo De urged, "Patriarch, Don't worry about him. Let's go. Guazixiong stomped his foot angrily and shouted, My Gua family's base is just outside this mountain range. When you go out, you can ask around and find out. Be careful. After saying that, the group of phantoms quickly dissipated. At the same time, Qin Feiyang also withdrew his aura and rushed into the forest below like lightning. Human, you're quite bold. You didn't run away. The giant python looked at the place where Qin Feiyang disappeared. Its huge body rose into the air, and its ferocious aura enveloped all directions. Qin Feiyang stood in the forest and looked up at the giant python with a shocked expression. It was a crimson python. Its body was tens of thousands of feet long. Its entire body was covered with blood-red scales. From afar, it looked like a majestic mountain range roaring toward them. It's so big. No wonder it could swallow that black eagle. No, that black eagle is probably not enough to fill the gaps between its teeth, Qin Feiyang murmured. He decisively activated the movement formula and flew into the sky like lightning. The crimson python did not give up. Its divine sense covered tens of thousands of miles as it chased after Qin Feiyang. Roar, chirp, boom. The arrival of the crimson python also caused the area to become extremely chaotic. Countless ferocious beasts and birds fled in fear. Some beasts rose into the sky, but before they could escape, they were swallowed by the crimson python. It was a ruthless predator. None of the prey that it had locked onto could escape. Qin Feiyang looked back at the crimson python as he ran. He was not afraid at all. Instead, he had an impulse to try. An early-stage divine lord. He wondered if he could compete with the crimson python with the 6-word formula. How can this human be so fast? High in the sky, the crimson python's eyes were filled with surprise. All of a sudden, the crimson python raised its huge tail and smashed toward Qin Feiyang with a deafening sound of wind and thunder. Boom! A few giant peaks were directly shattered. Qin Feiyang's eyes darkened. With a wave of his hand, a blood-red bolt of lightning streaked across the sky and hit the giant tail. Clang! Sparks flew, and a snake's scale was immediately shattered. Then, the blood-red bolt of lightning penetrated into the snake's flesh and penetrated through the other side of the giant tail. A fist-sized bloody hole suddenly appeared. The crimson python lowered its head and looked at the bloody hole in its tail. Its eyes were filled with astonishment. Qin Feiyang was also a little stunned. In fact, he was just trying it out. He did not want to cause any harm to the crimson python. But he did not expect the blood-red bolt of lightning to be so powerful that it could easily tear apart the crimson python's defense. The formula was divided into low, middle, high, perfect, peak, and legendary levels. The 6-word formula was above the legendary level. But Qin Feiyang could not tell what level the 6-word formula belonged to. But he had figured out one thing. The 6-word formula could ignore the barrier of the realm. Normally speaking, for example, the War Emperor would not be able to break through the barrier of the realm when facing the false god or war god, no matter how strong the formula was. The so-called barrier was the barrier between the two realms. Similarly, it was the same for the war god and the divine lord. If in the past, the war god was the ruler of this world and everyone below the war emperor was an ant, then now, in front of the divine lord, the war god was an ant. In short, if any divine lord wanted to kill a war god, even a perfect war god, it would only take a flick of his finger, unless he had an extremely heaven-defying formula or a divine artifact in his hands. And now, the fact that the blood-red bolt of lightning could injure the crimson python was enough to show that the 6-word formula could ignore the gap between realms. The crimson python came back to its senses, lowered its head and looked at Qin Feiyang, and asked curiously, "Human brat, what was that thing you used just now?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. What was going on with this crimson python? Shouldn't it be angry after hurting it? Why was it communicating with him in a pleasant manner? Wait. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang noticed that the bloody hole on the crimson python's tail had already healed, and there wasn't even a single scar left. So that's how it is. Realizing this, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but laugh bitterly. It seemed to be very serious, but to the crimson python, this kind of injury was nothing at all. At most, it was just a mosquito bite, so naturally, it wouldn't make the Crimson Python angry. Seeing that Qin Feiyang didn't speak for a long time, the Crimson Python began to lose its patience and said angrily, "Human brat, I'm asking you a question." Qin Feiyang came back to his senses and said indifferently, "How could I tell you such a thing? You're quite smart, knowing that you'll get into trouble because of your wealth. But don't be nervous, tell me and I'll let you go. I'll even give you a few hundred soul stones." The Crimson Python's eyes flickered as it grinned. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He looked at the Crimson Python suspiciously and asked, "Do you have so many soul stones?" Seeing that Qin Feiyang had taken the bait, the Crimson Python nodded and said, "Of course, not to mention soul stones, I even have soul vein." Soul vein? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Soul stones come from soul vein. Soul vein can automatically absorb the essence of heaven and earth and continuously produce soul stones. The voice of the female fire lotus sounded in Qin Feiyang's mind. So that's how it is. Qin Feiyang suddenly understood and said secretly, "Then how many soul stones can this soul vein produce in a day?" "You shouldn't ask that. You should ask, how many can it produce in a year?" "As far as I know, soul vein is divided into 3, 6, and 9. Level 1 soul vein is the lowest, and it can produce 10 soul stones a year." The female fire lotus said. Qin Feiyang was stunned. Only 10 soul stones were produced in a year. That was way too low. Could it be that Guo Zixiang and Guo De both had pained expressions when they gave him soul stones back then? That's why soul stones are very rare in the ancient world. If a soul vein appears, even if it's only a level 1, it will cause all forces to fight for it. The female fire lotus said. "Kid, what's with that expression? Don't you even know what a soul vein is?" The Crimson Python looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. "You can't let it know that you're from another world, or there'll be big trouble. And I've been here before. There's no soul vein at all. It's just fooling you." The female fire lotus said. "This cunning beast." Qin Feiyang cursed and looked up at the Crimson Python, saying, "Who said I don't know about soul vein? Since you said you have a soul vein, then tell me, what's the level of your soul vein?" "I'm a monarch god. How can my soul vein be low level?" "Let me tell you, the soul vein I have is a level 5 soul vein," the Crimson Python said proudly. "Level 5? The corner of Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched. This beast doesn't even know how to brag. Since that's the case, then I'll brag with this guy. Qin Feiyang smiled secretly and took the initiative to fly into the sky. He showed an excited and eager expression and asked, "Lord, is this true? Don't lie to me." "Of course it's true. As long as you tell me, I'll keep my promise and give you soul stones immediately," the Crimson Python said solemnly. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed with a trace of light and said, "Fire Lotus, do you think it has soul stones?" "Although it doesn't have a soul vein, as a monarch god divine beast, it definitely has soul stones. And I guess it's more soul stones than the Guo family gave you," the female Fire Lotus said. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang's heart suddenly became lively. Chapter 1921. The blood python raised its eyebrows and said, "Kid, there is a limit to my patience." "Yes, yes, yes." Qin Feiyang nodded and said, "To be honest, I used a divine artifact just now." "Divine artifact?" The blood python was stunned and cursed inwardly. What kind of divine artifact could actually injure it despite the difference in cultivation level? "Let me take a look," the blood python urged. "No, what if you snatch it away?" Qin Feiyang shook his head. "Kid, I'm already giving you face by talking to you calmly, so don't be so shameless." The blood python's eyes flashed coldly. Qin Feiyang took a few steps back and looked at the blood python warily. "You want to snatch it?" the blood python said. "If you don't hand it over, I might really snatch it away." "I'm afraid you don't have the ability," Qin Feiyang sneered. The blood python was stunned. How dare he show such a contemptuous look in front of it? "It seems that you won't cry until you're in the coffin." Boom. A terrifying pressure rushed toward Qin Feiyang like a volcanic eruption. Qin Feiyang was immediately imprisoned in the void. "I'll kill you sooner or later anyway," so I don't want to waste my breath. Once I swallow you alive, the divine artifact will naturally be mine." The blood python smiled coldly and opened its bloody mouth, revealing its sharp fangs and biting toward Qin Feiyang. "Your Majesty can't imprison me." Qin Feiyang grinned and his aura exploded, instantly breaking the Majesty's imprisonment. "What?" The blood python's eyes widened. A mere god of war could break the majesty of a divine lord? How was that possible? However, so what if he broke free from the Majesty's imprisonment? How could a mere god of war fly away in front of its eyes? However, the next moment, Qin Feiyang disappeared without a trace in front of its eyes. It was as if he had evaporated into thin air. The blood python immediately released its divine sense. A divine lord's psyche was enough to cover hundreds of thousands of kilometers. However, within the range of his spiritual sense, he could not find any trace of Qin Feiyang. Could it be that he had a spatial divine item? However, in this area, it did not find any traces of spatial divine items. He disappeared just like that? The crimson python scanned the surrounding void with a furious expression. However, most of them were still confused. How did he leave? The black tortoise world. Above the medicine field in the Devil's Land, Qin Feiyang stood against the wind and looked at the blood python in front of him. His eyes flickered. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the female fire lotus appeared beside him. "Huarlian, since you're here, do you know where the blood python hid its soul stone?" Qin Feiyang asked. "I don't know." Fire lotus shook her head and said, "But the soul stone is such an important thing. Generally speaking, it would carry it with it." Qin Feiyang rubbed his head and said helplessly, "If it carries it with it, it will be a bit troublesome to make it hand it over willingly. Then we'll snatch it." Fire Lotus smiled. "Snatch it? To be honest, I'm not very confident. It's because I've never fought with an expert at the level of a Sir God before. Moreover, there are more than a dozen divine beasts as strong as the blood python in this mountain range. If they are alarmed, then we will really be in trouble. So snatching it by force is really a bad idea." Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. However, he was unwilling to give up on the fat meat in front of him. Fire Lotus thought for a while and said with a smile, "You can think about it yourself. I can't help you." Qin Feiyang lowered his head and pondered. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something and his eyes lit up. Then, Qin Feiyang raised his arm and killing intent surged out continuously. A blood-red sword condensed. Looking at the blood-red sword, Fire Lotus's eyes couldn't help but emit a strange light. "This is what it wants. I might as well give it to it." Qin Feiyang laughed mischievously. Then, he disappeared without a trace. Outside, the more the blood python thought about it, the angrier it became. Its huge body trembled in the void. Clang! Suddenly, a sword light appeared and tore through the sky. Then, Qin Feiyang charged out with the blood-red sword. The blood python was shocked. Its divine power surged and condensed into a thick shield wall in front of it. The blood-red sword slashed on the shield wall. Boom! Accompanied by an earth-shattering sound, the shield wall shattered on the spot. The blood python looked at the blood-red sword in Qin Feiyang's hand in shock. As for how Qin Feiyang left and how he suddenly appeared, it completely forgot about it. "That's my divine weapon." Qin Feiyang hid the blood-red sword behind his back and looked at the blood python with a vigilant smile. He wanted to pretend that he cared a lot about the blood-red sword, so that the blood python would take the bait. And by doing so, he wouldn't give the blood python a chance to observe the blood-red sword carefully. After all, the blood-red sword was condensed with killing intent. Although it was similar to a divine weapon, it was still different from a real divine weapon. If it was placed in front of the blood python and let it observe it carefully, it would definitely find some clues. Divine weapon. At this moment, the blood python was completely shocked and its breathing became rapid. To think that it, a divine lord, could easily destroy the shield wall condensed with divine power. The level of the blood-red sword must be high. Most importantly, the blood-red sword could ignore the existence of a higher realm. If it could get this divine weapon, it could totally be the king here. "Kid, give that sword to me." The blood python's divine power surged and locked onto Qin Feiyong. Give it to you? Do you think it's possible? Qin Feiyong snorted coldly. The blood python's eyes flashed with killing intent. If you don't give it to me, I'm afraid you won't be able to leave this place. Then, how did I leave just now? Qin Feiyong smiled mockingly. The blood python's eyes darkened slightly. Qin Feiyong pondered for a while and smiled. How about this? Let's make a deal. What deal? The blood python was suspicious. Qin Feiyong said, Give me 10,000 soul stones, and I'll give this divine weapon to you. What? 10,000 soul stones? The blood python glared and roared. Why don't you rob me? Qin Feiyong said, I want to, but I don't have the ability. It seems that you still have some self-awareness. The blood python snorted and pondered for a while. You're asking for too much. I don't have it. Qin Feiyong frowned. You even have a level 5 soul line. Can't you take out 10,000 soul stones? The blood python looked embarrassed. Qin Feiyong pursed his lips. I knew it. What soul line? It's all nonsense. The blood python smiled embarrassedly. All of a sudden, without any warning, it raised its gigantic tail and smashed it towards Qin Feiyong with lightning speed. Its eyes were filled with killing intent. Swoosh. Although the blood python's attack was sudden, Qin Feiyong did not let down his guard. Before the gigantic tail landed, he entered the black tortoise world once more. Damn it! What a troublesome brat! The blood python was furious after failing to catch Su Ping. Swoosh! Qin Feiyong appeared in the void opposite with a frosty expression. This is the second time you've attacked. Don't test my patience. The blood python raised its brows. It seemed that it would not work to snatch it. Suppressing the anger in its heart, the blood python exhaled and said, 10,000 soul stones are too much. I only have 3,000 soul stones with me right now. Indeed, it's more than Guazixiang and the others. Qin Feiyong was secretly delighted and shook his head. There's no room for negotiation. It has to be 10,000 soul stones. The anger in the blood python's heart almost exploded once more. I'll endure it. The blood python took a deep breath and said, How about I owe it to you first? I don't owe it to you. Qin Feiyong shook his head. Don't be ungrateful. The blood python was furious. This is a fair trade. How is that ungrateful? Furthermore, you're the one who profited from exchanging such a powerful god weapon for 10,000 soul stones. All right? Qin Feiyong said. The blood python's eyes flickered. Suddenly, it was stunned as it sized up Qin Feiyong. That's not right. You're willing to give me such a powerful god weapon? Is there a problem with this? Of course I'm unwilling, but I have no choice. I can only break through faster if I obtain a large number of soul stones. Qin Feiyong sighed. Kid, you're quite smart. No matter how powerful an external object is, it's still an external object. It can't be compared to your own strength. The blood python said. That's right. Qin Feiyong nodded. The blood python gritted its teeth and said, All right, you wait here. I'll go gather some soul stones. Qin Feiyong's eyes flickered as he frowned. You're not going to play any tricks, are you? I should be the one saying that. You'd better not play any tricks. Otherwise, I won't let you go even if I have to go to heaven or hell. The blood python snorted as its body shrunk rapidly and disappeared into the depths of the mountain. Tricking me? Who's tricking who? A sinister smile crept onto Qin Feiyong's face. If the crimson python could really find 10,000 soul stones, then the white-eyed wolf, Yu Huang, Lu Mu, Qin Rushuang, and Lei Bao would all be able to reach the divine battle realm in a short period of time. Let's not talk about the others. Let's talk about the white-eyed wolf first. Once it became a war god, its innate divine ability would be very useful in the future. With a happy mood, Qin Feiyong took a step forward and landed in the forest below. He sat on a green rock and waited patiently. There were countless beasts wandering around. Most of them were war god-level divine beasts. There were even a dozen perfect war god-level divine beasts. But feeling the terrifying murderous aura from the blood-red long sword, none of the beasts dared to get close. About half an hour later, a murderous aura that could make people despair approached from afar. After a few breaths, The blood python appeared in the sky above. Qin Feiyang quickly got up and flew into the sky. He stood in front of the blood python and said cautiously, "I'll say it again. Don't play any tricks." He couldn't appear too relaxed. Otherwise, it might arouse the blood python's suspicion. "Humph." The blood python snorted and took out a chinkuan bag from its chi-si. Qin Feiyang looked at the chinkuan pouch, and a glint flashed across his eyes. He asked with a doubtful attitude, "You really have 10,000 soul stones inside? Don't you know how to check with your divine sense?" The blood python said angrily. Qin Feiyang released his divine sense into the chinkuan bag. He immediately became excited. There was nothing else in the chinkuan bag, only soul stones. After careful counting, there were exactly 10,000 of them. Not one more, not one less. The blood python said, "We'll exchange the money and the goods. Don't play any tricks." "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded. The blood-red longsword flew towards the blood python. At the same time, the chinkuan bag also flew towards Qin Feiyang. Chapter 1922. The transaction went smoothly. Qin Feiyang grabbed the chinkuan bag. The blood python also used its divine power to imprison the blood-red sword in the void in front of it. One man and one beast, as if they had obtained a treasure, couldn't close their mouths. Qin Feiyang directly put away the chinkuan bag and looked at the blood python with a smile, quickly erased the blood contract inside and dripped blood to recognize it as the master. The blood python was stunned. "That's right. I haven't dripped blood to recognize it as the master yet." It glanced at Qin Feiyang with a hint of ridicule in its eyes. He actually reminded it? Wait and see. The soul stone is not so easy to get. After dripping blood to recognize it as the master, with the terrifying power of this artifact, I can't do anything to you? The blood python sneered in its heart. From the beginning, it didn't intend to give the soul stone to Qin Feiyang. Its plan was to cheat the blood-red sword first. The blood-red sword in the hands of a war god could exert such terrifying power, not to mention in the hands of a monarch god. At that time, the blood-red sword had fully recovered. Even if Qin Feiyang hit again, it was full of confidence that it could make Qin Feiyang show his true form. But at the same time, Qin Feiyang also had a hint of ridicule in his eyes. One man and one beast, each with their own ulterior motives. The blood python quietly urged its divine power and poured it into the blood-red sword. But just as the divine power entered the blood-red sword, its body suddenly stiffened. What's going on? This battle sword, why isn't it made of divine iron? This is murderous intent? Bastard, this is actually just a battle sword condensed by murderous intent. Haha, Qin Feiyang really couldn't hold it in anymore and laughed out loud. Hearing this laughter, the blood python's eyes suddenly sank, and a monstrous anger in its heart surged out uncontrollably. Do you really think it's a divine artifact? Haha. Qin Feiyang laughed so hard that he rocked back and forth. He laughed so hard that tears almost came out of his eyes. The blood python gritted its teeth and stared at Qin Feiyang, its eyes extremely hazy. The situation is actually like this. That blood-red sword was formed from a deity incantation. But this battle art is very heaven-defying. The sword it condenses is indeed very similar to a real divine weapon. Once upon a time, there was a Qilin. When he first saw this blood-red sword, he thought it was a divine weapon, just like you. After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, with a thought, the blood-colored longsword floating in front of the blood python collapsed on the spot. The Kirin he was talking about was the blood Kirin. Crack. Looking at the dissipating blood-colored sword, a deafening sound suddenly came from the blood python's mouth. The venomous fang on the left side of its mouth had shattered because it had used too much force. Qin Feiyang was stunned. Even her poisonous fangs were shattered. How angry and how much did she hate him? However, the teasing look on his face became even more intense. He smiled comfortingly and said, "Don't be like this. My heart aches just looking at you." Bastard. The blood python was so angry that it spat out a mouthful of blood. The broken fangs, mixed with blood, sprayed out. Tisk, tsk, tsk. How pitiful. Qin Feiyang shook his head, his eyes full of sympathy. You're courting death. The blood python roared into the sky. Its terrifying aura transformed into giant waves that covered the sky and covered the earth as it surged in all directions. Crack. Boom. For a moment, the sky and earth cracked and the void was annihilated. It was like the end of the world. We'll meet again. Qin Feiyang saw that the situation was not good. He grinned at the blood python and directly entered the black tortoise world. Immediately after, he did not dare to stay for a moment. He immediately controlled the black tortoise world and flew into the depths of the mountain range. However, at this moment, a divine power barrier enveloped them. The black tortoise world was immediately trapped in the barrier. Qin Feiyang's heart sank. The reason why he immediately controlled the black tortoise world to escape was because he was worried that this would happen. Because the blood python was a divine lord. With his current cultivation level, neither the black tortoise world nor the ancient castle could forcibly break through the barrier. The situation is not good. The female fire lotus had been in the sky above the herb field. She looked at the divine power barrier outside and said, Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed, and he decisively stopped the black tortoise world. Why did we stop? Shouldn't we try and see if we can forcefully break through? Fire Lotus looked at Qin Feiyang in confusion. No. If we forcefully break through now, it's the same as exposing our whereabouts. When the blood python knows that we're trapped in the barrier, it will definitely drag it out with us. I don't have time to waste with it. On the contrary, as long as we don't forcefully break through, it won't know if we're trapped or not. Because divine sense can't capture the black tortoise world. If it can't be sure if we're trapped or not, it will definitely disperse the barrier soon. Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice. Fire Lotus pondered for a while after hearing this and nodded. After hearing what you said, it's indeed the best choice for now. Outside, the blood python floated within the barrier and carefully searched this inch of space with its divine sense. But no matter how carefully it searched, it couldn't find any trace of Qin Feiyang, let alone any traces of the space divine item. Where is it? Little bastard. I don't believe that you've already escaped. Get out here. The blood python roared again and again, its hostility soaring to the sky. Whoosh! At this moment, more than a dozen ferocious beasts came from afar like lightning. Every one of them was extremely large. They were ferocious and imposing, and the aura they exuded was no weaker than the blood python. Obviously, like the blood python, they were the overlords of this mountain range. Blood python, what are you doing? Not long ago, when you came to borrow soul stones from us, didn't you look very happy? At that time, when we asked you, you didn't say anything. You were so mysterious. Why are you causing such a big commotion now? Those ferocious beasts looked at the blood python in the barrier suspiciously. Shut up. The blood python glared at those ferocious beasts angrily and continued to scan the void inside the barrier. Its eyes were extremely fierce. After being together for so many years, this is the first time I've seen this guy so angry. It seems that something must have happened before that we don't know about. I'll go and ask around to see what happened. One of the divine beasts went into the jungle below. At that time, when Qin Feiyang and the blood python were trading, there were many ferocious beasts nearby watching, so they could find out everything with a little inquiry. When that divine beast came back and explained the situation to the other divine beasts, their expressions suddenly became very strange. Was the blood python stupid? How could it believe the humans' nonsense? It was obvious that there wouldn't be such a cheap thing in the world. However, this human was quite bold. He actually dared to come here to cheat. 10,000 soul stones. Such a large number of soul stones, even for these divine beasts at the monarch god level. It would take decades or even hundreds of years to gather. Blood python, I don't care if you were cheated or not. In short, you must return the soul stones to me within 3 months. That's right. These soul stones were painstakingly accumulated by us. If you dare to go back on your words, then don't blame us for being hostile. 5 of the divine beasts looked at the blood python and said, the blood python only had 3,000 soul stones, which meant that the blood python had borrowed the other 7,000 soul stones from them. Don't bother me now, Scram. The blood python was furious. I borrowed your soul stones, and you still have such an attitude. Good intentions don't pay off. The 5 divine beasts sneered and turned around to leave. Blood python, that human brat should have escaped. What's the use of you squatting here? Hurry up and think of a way to find the soul stones. The other divine beasts said and left one after another. I don't believe that he has escaped so quickly. He must be hiding somewhere here. The blood python scanned the void coldly. Black tortoise whirled. Qin Feiyang looked at the blood python in the image, and his eyebrows gradually knitted together. The female fire lotus retracted her gaze and looked at Qin Feiyang. Things don't seem to have developed in the way you think. There's no hurry. It's just a guess. Qin Feiyang smiled and didn't pay much attention to it. He directly entered the ancient castle. Young master, you're really amazing. You even dared to ignore a divine beast at the monarch god level. Zhao Tailai and the others immediately surrounded Qin Feiyang. Everyone in the ancient castle could hear the sounds outside. So even if they couldn't see what was outside, they knew what was going on. Who asked it to be stupid? Moreover, it was the one who provoked me first. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Where's the Chinkuan bag? Let us have a look. The white-eyed wolf looked at Qin Feiyang anxiously. Qin Feiyang took out the Chinkuan bag from his chest and threw it to the white-eyed wolf. The white-eyed wolf caught it with its claws and released its divine will to check. Yu Huang, Willow Tree, and Lei Bao also looked at the Chinkuan bag with anticipation. A moment later, the white-eyed wolf retracted its divine will, its eyes full of excitement. Wolf boss, how is it? Lei Bao asked. The white-eyed wolf smiled and said, Not more, not less, exactly 10,000. Haha, I really didn't expect to meet such a fool as soon as I came to the ancient realm. He gave us such a large amount of soul stones. Lei Bao and Yu Huang also laughed excitedly. All right. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and looked at the white-eyed wolf, Willow Tree, Qin Rushuang, Lei Bao, and Yu Huang and said with a smile, Hurry up and go into seclusion to refine. All right. According to the current time rules of the ancient castle, we can step into the war god level in half a day at most. Willow Tree laughed. War god. When he was in the black tortoise realm, he didn't even dare to think about it. At that moment, the 2 men and 3 beasts each took out some soul stones and began to cultivate in seclusion. I'll put the remaining soul stones here. Qin Feiyang took the Chinkuan bag and placed it on the altar. Then, he looked at Tantaili, the mermaid palace master, Zhao Tailai, the blood Qilin, and the golden leopard, and said with a smile, If you want to refine, take it yourselves. Everyone nodded. Qin Feiyang then looked at Dan Wangkai and said, You haven't stepped into the false god realm yet. Put aside the matter of refining pills and focus on cultivating. Dan Wangkai was slightly stunned and shook his head. With you guys fighting, why would I cultivate? I just want to refine pills. Other than refining pills, he was not interested in anything else. That won't do. What if there are times when I need your help? Refining pills, there's still a long way to go. I don't lack this time. Moreover, in the future, when you want to refine divine-level pills, you need to have the cultivation of a war god. Otherwise, when you face a divine-level pill furnace and pill fire, it will be very difficult for you, Qin Feiyang said. Literature Museum. Chapter 1923. Dan Wangkai pondered for a while and nodded. All right, then I'll reluctantly go into seclusion to cultivate for a while. Reluctantly? Qin Feiyang was a little speechless. It was unknown how many people wanted to come to his ancient castle to train. However, this fellow had an expression of reluctance on his face. Dan Wangkai smiled embarrassedly. Young master, actually, compared to cultivation, I'm more concerned about alchemy fire, alchemy furnace, and mental strength. Qin Feiyang said, I've been thinking about these things, and the ancient world definitely doesn't lack alchemy fire and alchemy furnaces, so you can cultivate in peace. Thank you, young master. Dan Wangkai smiled gratefully. Qin Feiyang shook his head, walked to the altar, cut his finger, and a drop of purple gold dragon blood fell, and the iron box immediately opened. After breaking through to the war god realm, he had not read the alchemy scripture, and the 6-word divine formula. He opened the iron book with anticipation. When he turned to the 5th page, a blood-red word suddenly appeared in front of his eyes. Death. That's right. On the 5th page was the word death, as if it was condensed from the blood of a demon, emitting a strong aura of death. Death? Qin Feiyang frowned. Why was it a death? And besides this death, there were no other words on the 5th page. In other words, on the 5th page, there was only one death. How could this be? Qin Feiyang's frown became tighter and tighter. In front, whether it was the return formula, battle formula, kill formula, or attainment formula, they all had detailed annotations. But this page, there was nothing. Wait. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang found another unusual place. At the bottom of the pages of the return formula, battle formula, kill formula, and attainment formula, there was a line of small words. For example, what cultivation level must one reach to be able to turn to the next page? But now, at the bottom of the 5th page, there was no such note. No note. Did that mean that he could turn to the 6th page now? Qin Feiyang pondered for a while, tentatively grabbed the 6th page, and used a little force. Immediately, Qin Feiyang was surprised. The 6th page actually moved. In other words, the 6th page could be open now. After coming back to his senses, he immediately flipped to the 6th page with excitement. A wave of emerald green light surged out like a tide. Within this green brilliance, there was a great aura of life. The contents of the 6th page also appeared before Qin Feiyang's eyes. Life. That was right. This was the word life. Just like the 5th page, there were no other words other than the word life. Death symbol formula? Life symbol formula? Qin Feiyang looked at the two characters over and over again, his eyes full of confusion. It was common knowledge. Death. It definitely represented death. Life was definitely life. But what kind of profound meaning was hidden in these two deity arts? For a moment, Qin Feiyang was completely confused. Forget it. Let's not think too much about it for now. Let's write it down first. After all, if I can imitate a stroke, I can break through a small realm. A moment later, Qin Feiyang shook his head, raised his arm, and pressed his index finger on the first stroke of the death symbol formula. Divine power gushed out from his fingertips. However, gradually, the expression on his face froze. This death symbol formula did not absorb his divine power. He quickly imitated the life symbol formula. In the end, he found that the situation was exactly the same. What's going on? This time, Qin Feiyang was completely confused. There were no notes, and he couldn't imitate it. What was going on? Feiyang, what's wrong? The mermaid princess noticed the change in Qin Feiyang, stopped refining the soul stone, got up and walked to Qin Feiyang's side, and asked suspiciously, "It's too strange. In the past, the battle symbol formula, the travel symbol formula, the kill symbol formula, and the return symbol formula were all imitated. But now, these two deity arts can't be imitated," Qin Feiyang said. The mermaid princess looked at the death symbol formula, then looked at the life symbol formula, and guessed. Could it be that these two deity arts already need you to comprehend them yourself? Comprehend them myself? Qin Feiyang frowned. Although life and death seem very ordinary, if you think about it carefully, there seems to be endless mysteries hidden inside. In short, I feel that the death and life on this deity art should be different from what we understand, the mermaid princess said. Qin Feiyang said, "After hearing what you said, it seems that there is really such a thing." Wait, didn't you say that there is some kind of law power in this world? The mermaid princess seemed to have thought of something and suddenly said, "Yes. For example, the law power of the ancient castle is time stop. Chang Shui's law power is time travel. For example, the law power of Mu Tianyang's blood blade is time reversal," Qin Feiyang said. The mermaid princess said, "Then do you think it is possible that these two words also represent some kind of law power?" Qin Feiyang stared blankly for a moment. He immediately lowered his head and stared at the two large words on the page. Look, the return symbol formula, the advance symbol formula, the battle symbol formula, and the kill symbol formula. These 4 deity arts all have heaven-defying power. They can even ignore the existence of a large realm. Then, this life symbol formula and death symbol formula might have already transcended the boundary of deity arts. And the existence above deity arts, from what we know so far, should be the power of law. The mermaid princess said, transcending the boundary of deity arts, the power of law, Qin Feiyang muttered to himself. Suddenly, he turned around and kissed the mermaid princess on the cheek. The mermaid princess was slightly stunned, and suddenly blushed and secretly scolded. "What are you doing? There are so many people here." While speaking, she glanced at Tantai and the others. Seeing that everyone closed their eyes to refine the soul stone and did not pay attention to them, she was relieved. "It is my great fortune to have you in this life. Your analysis is right. These 2 words may represent the law of life and death." Qin Feiyang was ecstatic. "This is just our baseless guess. Before we get confirmation, we can't directly draw a conclusion." The mermaid princess said with a smile, "Yes. After all, we don't know if there is a law of life and death in this world, but we can investigate according to this line of thought. There are many strong people in the ancient world. I think there must be a few people who know some information about the power of law." After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he decisively closed the iron book and opened the pill scripture. The mermaid princess also looked curiously at the side. The first thing that caught their attention was a kind of pill called life pill. There were detailed notes below. Life pill had the effect of repairing the soul. As long as the soul was not shattered, it could be quickly repaired. The second kind was called God Power Pill. This pill had the effect of restoring God power. The third kind was Undead Barrier Breaking Pill. This pill could let the undead go through the baptism of the heavenly tribulation and reconstruct their human body. The fourth kind was Heavenly Dust Divine Pill. This kind of pill could temporarily increase the cultivation of living beings by a small realm. Temporarily increase the cultivation by a small realm? Seeing this, Qin Feiyang and the mermaid princess looked at each other at the same time and looked over in surprise again. After confirming again and again, they did not see wrongly. This Heavenly Dust Divine Pill did have the effect of increasing the cultivation by a small realm. However, it was different from the 9-chew Yellow Dragon Pill and the 9-turn Dragon Blood Pill. The 9-chew Yellow Dragon Pill and the 9-turn Dragon Blood Pill could permanently increase the cultivation by a small realm. But this Heavenly Dust Divine Pill was only temporary. According to the records, the effect of the Heavenly Dust Divine Pill could only last for an hour, and it could only be used by war gods. If it was a creature surpassing war god, taking the Heavenly Dust Divine Pill would have no effect. Moreover, after taking the Heavenly Dust Divine Pill, there would be a certain side effect. Within an hour after the effect of the pill passed, one would enter a weakened state. Once one entered a weakened state, no pill would be able to recover. The mermaid princess said, "Although there are certain side effects and a time limit, it can be considered a terrifying trump card." "That's right. At a critical moment, taking this Heavenly Dust Divine Pill is enough to turn the situation around." Qin Feiyang nodded. He really didn't expect that there would be such a terrifying pill recorded in the pill scripture. The two of them continued to read. The fifth kind of pill was called the Divine Life Pill. According to the records, this Divine Life Pill had the same effect as the Healing Pill and could heal injuries. But the difference was that the Divine Life Pill was more comprehensive. For example, the previous Healing Pill could only heal the injuries of the physical body. If one's bones were broken, or if one was missing an arm or a leg, they would need the Bone Replenishing Pill and the Regeneration Pill. But now it was different. With just one Divine Life Pill, all these problems could be solved. And the effect was countless times stronger than the Healing Pill, Bone Replenishing Pill, and the Regeneration Pill. The sixth kind of pill was called the Four Symbols Limitless Pill. Looking at the Four Symbols Limitless Pill, Qin Feiyang and the mermaid princess's faces immediately crawled with ecstasy. This pill was the same as the Heavenly Dust Divine Pill. It had the effect of increasing cultivation. But the difference was that the Heavenly Dust Divine Pill was temporary, while the Four Symbols Limitless Divine Pill was permanent. In other words, the Four Symbols Limitless Divine Pill was exactly the same as the 9-turn Dragon Blood Pill and the 5 Elements Universe Pill. To Qin Feiyang and the others, This was the pill that they needed the most right now. Because their current cultivation was too weak, they had to increase their cultivation as soon as possible. And this four symbols limitless divine pill was undoubtedly the best shortcut. Suppressing the excitement in their hearts, the two of them looked at the seventh kind of pill, Dragon Soul Primordial Spirit Pill. This Dragon Soul Primordial Spirit Pill was a pill that could break through the War God realm and open the door of potential. The mermaid princess took a deep breath and smiled. The pills in this pill scripture are really comprehensive. That's right. For me to be able to walk to this day and have today's achievements, this pill scripture has contributed greatly, Qin Feiyang said. However, when he saw the following content, Qin Feiyang's expression became rather ugly. The content was roughly, the above pills were all divine pills and required a god-level pill furnace and pill fire, as well as a minimum of level 50 mental power to refine them. In other words, Dan Wonkai was still unable to refine these pills at the moment. He had to do it himself, but he didn't have a god-level pill furnace yet. As for the Nether Devil Flame, although it had already been raised to the 9th grade, it could only be compared to a false god. It was still a step away from a true god-level pill fire. In other words, he still needed to find 3 clusters of 9th grade pill fire before the Nether Devil Flame could truly advance to a god-level pill fire. And mental power. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment, looked at Dan Wonkai who was sitting cross-legged at the side and cultivating with his eyes closed, and asked, Dan Wonkai, do you have a spirit stone? You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.